Chapter 611, Must Be Stopped. This place isn't safe. We shouldn't stay here for too long. Broken Water Arrow was not just anyone, and vigilance had already been ingrained in him, so he easily sensed that the players here in the wilderness camp were hostile to one another. Those spectators, who had come before them and were initially unsure of what was happening, already adapted to the locals' actions and successfully integrated themselves with the endless fighting here. At the moment, finding a peaceful spot in this grinding map to observe everything was not easy, as anyone could very well find themselves ambushed by another player at any given time. "Let's go," Yixiao told the others. The situation here was clear for all to see, and experienced players could tell what was going and could even infer what the place would become. Even though Silvermoon and No Smile coveted the efficient monster grinding routine, neither dared to stick around for long. This was especially true for Silvermoon. Hanging around somewhere with a dense crowd gathered was tremendously dangerous, which explained why he had been keeping his face covered this whole time. As the group left the wilderness camp, the two's minds were working non-stop. They had been following Yixiao for a week now, always waiting to see if the man had some trenchant means or if they could gain benefits from him, but they had nothing to show for in the end. Yixiao was just like the average players, doing the same things every day when he logged on. Sometimes, Silvermoon and No Smile even tried finding excuses to stick to him like glue, yet they never saw him do anything out of the ordinary. Until now, the one time they found the priest resting was when he displayed his alchemy proficiency. Aside from that, he was just a normal player who had yet to reach level 40. The two men also spent this period very unhappy. Originally, they thought that they had found themselves an amazing supporter whom would usher them into a new amazing future in Fleeting Smile. However, this turned out not to be the case after they spent time interacting with him. Had he been truly capable, forget about a guild, the man should have at least formed a mercenary group by now. They continued to follow the man quietly, but that was all thanks to the incident days ago when he said that he would use 20,000 gold coins to hire Southern Lone Blade. That incident had left Silvermoon and No Smile rather excited, thinking that Yixiao was foolish yet loaded, so it was a matter of time before they could take advantage of his fortune. But they were puzzled after reading about the news in the forums this morning about Thousand Miles Drunk Sponge forming a workshop in partnership with Southern Lone Blade's lot. The person who had first stumbled on this information was No Smile, and he quickly contacted Silvermoon about it before they reported it to Yixiao. Silvermoon indignantly accused Southern Lone Blade's lot of lacking integrity. He was waiting to see how Yixiao would react to this revelation, but in the end, the man merely answered, "I know." It turned out that when Southern Lone Blade decided to work with Gufei, ready to bury the hatchet between them, he informed Yixiao of his decision at once, and broke off their deal. At that time, Southern Lone Blade was rejoicing that he had not taken a deposit for the deal, otherwise, he would surely have a very painful time reimbursing the man. Silvermoon and No Smile were very surprised to learn this, completely at a loss over what this strange priest Fleeting Smile was planning. Afterward, Silvermoon casually mentioned about those people forming a workshop again, of how they were seeking to sell something called efficient monster grinding routines. He originally wanted to see if Yixiao had anything up his sleeve to deal with Thousand Miles Drunk Sponge, who were getting stronger as time went by. Who would have expected the man to have such a sudden and strong reaction to the efficient monster grinding routines, though, after thoroughly inquiring about the matter, he decided to head over to Beishi City's wilderness camp with them in tow to take a look at it personally. Actually, after the Utopian magic staff got sold off, Yixiao and the others had immediately went back to Linian City. They did say that they wanted to deal with Thousand Miles Drunk, but they did not stay around Beishi City and, instead, went back to Linian City. Instead, this left Silvermoon and the others a little confused, but because Beishi City happened to be very dangerous for Silvermoon, he actually found the decision to be rather favorable. Glue and the others' failure to catch any traces of Silvermoon that day was entirely because he was no longer in Beishi City. Heading back to this city this time, Silvermoon changed his outfit and kept his face covered as he still considered himself a wanted criminal, but why would those from this city bother who he was? Everyone only had 4 words on their lips: efficient monster grinding routine. Once they finished watching, as veteran gamers of a certain caliber, The shrewd Silvermoon and No Smile could tell at a glance the inherent value of this grinding routine, but they could also tell that depending on this to level in the wilderness camp was not practical anymore. The place was just overpopulated. If they wished to continue developing, they would ultimately need to have a powerful guild party backing them. There was no way any private individual would be able to take advantage of this. No matter the case, anybody could tell that this leveling method was a huge business. Silvermoon and No Smile were extremely jealous, especially since both of them felt very dissatisfied with how it greatly contrasted their present destitution. Upon seeing just how much Yixiao disliked this efficient monster grinding routine, they quickly continued to fuss about the matter and added fuel to the fire. Silvermoon and No Smile were veterans, indeed. Just as House or Demon, Young Master, Han and the others realized how tremendous the impact of this efficient monster grinding routine would have to the game, the two naturally shared a similar insight to this, and so what they had said made perfect sense. Adopting such a point of view as they chattered about those men's actions, it was as if Xiao had found like-minded people for once. Rare that he could hold a serious conversation regarding this with these two men. Silvermoon and No Smile had not lost all hope with Yixiao. The two men felt that with how this person had gone to great lengths and expenditure to gather all of those that had history with Thousand Miles Drunk, he should still have a plan in the works, and that Broken Water Arrow should know about it. It was apparent to the two how differently Yixiao treated Broken Water Arrow. The two were actually friends, while Silvermoon and No Smile were no more than pawns on a chessboard for this. Neither of them were afraid of being pawns, but they were fearful of the fact that they were pawns who were clueless as to what the next move they would be making. This was why the two kept trying to pick Yixiao's mind regarding how he wanted to deal with Gufei, and they finally managed to gain some very important information today. All this time, they were thinking that Yixiao was like them, someone whom Thousand Miles Drunk had crippled by several levels before, and now bore deep-seated resentment to the point of wanting to seek revenge. To form closer bonds with the priest, the two denounced Thousand Miles Drunk's viciousness, but Yixiao did not seem to react much to these efforts. Now, the two finally discovered that Fleeting Smile did not have any personal vendetta against Thousand Miles Drunk, and it seemed that he was very concerned with how Thousand Miles Drunk's actions affected the balance of an parallel world. Could this man really be an employee of this game's company? Silvermoon and No Smile privately messaged each other. They had long had their suspicions about this eventuality, which was just never confirmed. After all, everybody knew about the rule of employees of the game company being restricted from entering the game. Why will he care about such things if he's not a game employee? No Smile challenged. Maybe he's insane? Silvermoon gave a wild guess. He's pretty sane to me. No Smile wiped off his sweat. Don't you think that, with how he usually acts so sneakily, it's as if he knows things he doesn't intend to share with us? Silvermoon asked. A little, I guess. No Smile did not dare to deny this. Say, do you think that he was a game company employee that was let go afterward? Silvermoon's guess was precisely what had transpired. If that's the case, why is he still so concerned about this game? No Smile questioned. You've got a point there. Silvermoon agreed with his query. There was no way that these two extremely selfish gamers could imagine that Yixiao had willingly resolved to protect the game even at the expense of abandoning himself. Neither was able to come to any conclusion after discussing it for a long time, so all they could do was continue and toss out cliched lines at Yixiao. However, having a deeper understanding of Yixiao now, it was much easier for these two men to make casual conversation. Now that Thousand Miles Drunk's group has done something as irresponsible as this, we must think of ways to stop them, Silvermoon expressed. That's right. No Smile heartily supported. Yes. Yixiao replied lightly. At the same time that Silvermoon and No Smile were secretly chatting with each other, Yixiao and Broken Water Arrow were also privately messaging each other. These two guys. You don't believe how they are acting, do you? Broken Water Arrow asked. Only a fool will, Yixiao said. How many more days do Old Breaker need? About 4 days more. It's already the best he can do, Broken Water Arrow replied. It's been hard on him. I've inquired after the workshop Thousand Miles Drunk and Company announced in their post. The next step for them is to continue their lesson in the Y Mill, and right now, They are merely accepting registrations from the interested players, but seeing how passionate these players are, I'm afraid that they'll be able to proceed in 4 days' time. In fact, they might already be done with studying the monsters in White Mill, and are already researching the next map, Broken Water Arrow said. Yixiao sighed. I never thought that that guy would advance so quickly. Just what exactly was the catalyst to this? Why did he suddenly want to do this? I feel like, given his caliber, this sort of fighting routine is not something he newly discovered. Yixiao wondered. Who knows? Broken Water Arrow had no answers, either. At the moment, they've already destroyed the wilderness camp. So if there's a chance that we can delay and rescue the White Mill from collapse, we got to give it our all. Yixiao said. We just need to stall for 4 days. Broken Water Arrow said firmly. Yixiao did not speak and merely nodded. Silvermoon and No Smile were still cursing and lambasting Goofei's actions on their end, hoping that Yixiao would casually follow up the conversation and reveal his plan. Ultimately, Yixiao simply gave them a simple yeah, leaving the two men uncertain if he had heard any of their words at all. Silvermoon could no longer stand this and finally blurted out, just tell us if there's anything you need us to do. No Smile was startled by this, because from the very beginning, both men had already made the decision to mainly fish in troubled waters and avoid becoming the vanguard. However, since Silvermoon suddenly volunteered the two of them thusly with his usage of the word us, how could he not get flustered? In that moment, No Smile still did not consider Silvermoon to be a comrade, wondering to himself, motherfucker, you're only at level 30-something, so you have nothing to lose. Yours truly here is at level 41, and me losing 1 level is equivalent to several of yours, bastard. While No Smile was feeling pissed deep down, Silvermoon sent him a private message. You can't bag the wolf if you're unwilling to lose the child. It appears if we don't show a bit of effort, there's no way we can benefit in any sense. No Smile felt that what he had said made sense, but they still had no idea what sort of benefit they would be getting. To take such a huge risk and pit themselves against 1,000 Miles drunk so suddenly, just the thought alone made his stomach churn and his legs wobbly. Ruminating on this further, No Smile realized that Silvermoon was a knight at the end of the day, and that trump card skill on his King's Blade would be used for support only. If they were to face against 1,000 Miles drunk head on, why would he ever be in the front line? Fuck, I got sold out by this asshole. Was No Smile thought to himself, immediately coming to the realization that his maliciousness was no match for Silvermoon's. The man truly lived up to his exploits as a man who could abandon his spouse and brothers the moment his guild fell apart. He would not even bat an eyelid betraying a friend. No Smile was in the frame of mind of throttling Silvermoon to death, but he did not externalize it at all. By now, Silvermoon had already taken the initiative to volunteer him, and No Smile could not find any way to back out from it, so he might as well express his willingness to try his best to Yixiao, even though he was grumbling deep down. If this ended up costing him his life, he would make sure to drag his brother Silvermoon down and die together with him. Still, even if we die together, my 1 level just isn't worth the same as 1 of his. No Smile was despondent. Yes, it's best not to drag things out further when it comes to dealing with 1,000 Miles drunk. It was as if Yixiao was influenced by their proactiveness. Old Broken, where's Cool Apple? Yixiao asked. He's already in position, Broken Water Arrow said. Great. Hand Silvermoon the torque of leadership. Yixiao said. Silvermoon's eyes glinted. He did not expect that they would have already obtained his torque of leadership. With this item, he would once again have fulfilled his King's Blade's activation requirement. Broken Water Arrow did not hesitate, either. Taking out the torque of leadership and passing it to Silvermoon, the latter took it at once and equipped it. He then pulled out his King's Blade. Its blade was already gleaming with an undeniably golden luster. Anyone who looked at it would feel the slightest sensation of warmth overwhelm them. You two will head over to this set of coordinates. Yixiao handed them a piece of paper. Silver took it and gave it a glance. It was just a set of simple coordinates, and it should be somewhere inside Beishi City. Where is this place? They asked. The location where you two will be lying in wait. It is also the location where 1,000 Miles drunk will finally be cleaned up. Oh, what's the plan? They pressed on. We lay in ambush here's Old Broken lures 1,000 Miles drunk over. Meanwhile, You two are the unexpected reinforcement and will play a decisive role in this attempt, Yixiao said. Silver Moon's king's command is of course something no one else can do, but what about me? Just what exactly is my decisive role in all this? No Smile had his doubts. He was someone who knew his limits and was no more than a run-of-the-mill expert. He was nothing as unexpected as Silver Moon with his king's blade, so how could he play a decisive role? Because this is Beishi City, and thieves' stealth can be interrupted by anyone who possesses the white dust. Only someone like you with the vanish skill can re-stealth yourself after you get interrupted, which is why you'll be the one executing the decisive attack, Yixiao explained. Oh, so that's how it is. No Smile immediately understood this. He had also spent a period here in Beishi City, so he was aware of the miraculous uses for the white dust found in this region. Then, where are the people we're forming a party with? Silver Moon asked. There's no need for a party, Yixiao replied. No party? Then, my king's command. Silver Moon was nonplussed. Honestly speaking, we don't have a lot of manpower with us, and 1,000 miles drunk's strength is not something we can deal with by getting the king's command buff stacked on top of us. The goal of the others is merely to get 1,000 miles drunk expend some of his mana, so there's no need to waste king's command on them. Just use it only on No Smile alone. Yixiao said. Him alone? I believe you have been directly using the king's command skill inlaid in your king's blade, right? Yixiao chuckled. That's right. What's the matter? Try and use it like a knight's blessing. Choose a particular target before casting the skill, Yixiao said. Confused, he randomly activated his king's command on himself like it was a blessing. He glanced at his stats in that moment and was instantly so astounded that his mouth hung agape without shutting. When using king's command on a target, the stats increase isn't 15%, but actually 30%. You understand what's going on now, right? Yixiao asked, drastically increasing No Smile's power and have him sneak up on 1,000 miles drunk during the confusion to deal the killing blow on the man? Silver Moon summarized. I'll leave it you two to act according to the situation. There's no need to attack if a ripe chance doesn't present itself. After all, your strength is important to us, and we can't lose that, Yixiao said. The two men felt a sense of comfort rush over them from head to toe. After having been treated like stray mongrels for so long, who knew how long ago it was since the two were ever valued by another like this? However, their enemies were 1,000 miles drunk, and the two were not the sort to be complacent from a couple of compliments. This was when No Smile voiced his query. 1,000 miles drunk probably has a method of detecting stealth and doesn't need the white dust to discover my position. This ambush might not succeed. Gufei had seen through No Smile's stealth in the past, and that memory was still fresh in his mind. This was when Broken Water Arrow came forth and schooled the man. 1,000 miles drunk's able to detect you through stealth not because of an equipment but because of his intuition. Intuition? That's right. Having spent a long time undergoing specialized training for this, he can sense the changes to his environment through the senses around him. This sort of unique ability can be simulated in this remote setting, which is why he can locate a stealthed player through his intuition alone. Still, there's a condition he must fulfill to achieve this, and that is for the target he is sensing to pay heed to his existence. Do you understand what I'm saying? Broken Water Arrow remarked. No, I don't. Please be a little more specific. No Smile asked. When you're near him, don't focus your attention on him. Glance at him just once, remember his position, and get close to him. If necessary, you can get Silver Moon to direct you to him. The point is, you won't be discovered as long as you don't focus on the man. Once you're able to get close to him and strike, it will be too late for him to get a read on your position properly. Broken Water Arrow explained. Oh, so that's how it works. No Smile exhaled. Furthermore, he's going to be surrounded at that time, so there will be many players with their eyes on him. His intuition then will be in quite a mess. He won't be too precise catching you in the act as you creep up on him, so you can relax, Broken Water Arrow said. Doesn't that mean that we have a very high chance of success? Silver Moon asked. It will all depend on you two, Yixiao replied. I have a question. Since this is the case, Why is there a need for us to ambush him? Let's just go look for 1,000 miles drunk and jointly attack the man. Won't that be the same as me and No Smile finding the chance to ambush him? Silver Moon proposed. How is that the same? How do you know that 1,000 miles drunk's alone right now? Yi Xiao retorted. Silver Moon was taken aback and immediately recalled the terrifying friends Gu Fei had. We are already pushing it going against 1,000 miles drunk given our capabilities. If he still has assistance, how will we even possibly succeed? That's the reason why we designed a trap like this. We're waiting for 1,000 miles drunk to be alone before we reel him in, Yi Xiao said. Chapter 612, each trying to outwit the other. Silver Moon and No Smile both made their way over to the set of coordinates Yi Xiao had given them. Both men had ulterior motives, and neither spoke a word in that moment. No Smile never imagined that he would be given the heavy responsibility of dealing the fatal blow on 1,000 miles drunk. Even though he had often fantasized about such a scenario, when the opportunity was presented before him now, the first thought he had was not to go for it but cower. Instead, all he could think right now was being forced to do something he had no ability of achieving. Could I really end 1,000 miles drunk so easily? No Smile was racked with doubts. I must ensure that I have a clear idea of the situation. I'll make a run for it the moment I sense even the slightest thing off. Silver Moon, who would not be facing 1,000 miles drunk directly, being the support and all, was also considering what to do if the plan failed. No Smile was a thief, which meant that 1,000 miles drunk would be unable to give chase to him. This equated to Silver Moon himself meeting with the calamity that was 1,000 miles drunk. That guy's all agility build could easily catch up to his character. I must get a clear read of what's happening, and I'll need to make preparations for even the slightest issue, or else, there's no way that I can make my escape. Both made their decisions to retreat at the drop of a hat, and the expressions on these two men relaxed by quite a bit, and they each took the time to look at the person beside them at this moment. No Smile was already extremely disgruntled with Silver Moon, while Silver Moon figured that he would need No Smile and 1,000 miles drunk to be entangled in combat for him to escape. As a result, the expression he was showing right now was beyond cordial. Brother No Smile, the time for your name to skyrocket into fame is here. Once you stab 1,000 miles drunk to death, I'll get on the forums and help you spread the word far and wide. With you taking the lead at that time, we shall have our comeback together, Silver Moon said. No Smile mentally spat in response. Sure enough, this rascal intends to treat me as disposable. It's apparent with his words here that he's egging me on to duke it out with 1,000 miles drunk to death. Even with this thought in mind, he maintained a jovial expression as he laughed. There's no need for you to be too humble. This will all depend on the increase of stats from your king's command. You must keep close to me, in case that my one attack doesn't prove to be fatal, you'll have step up and deal a slash of your own. Silver Moon mentally gulped when he heard this and ascertained that No Smile was just as shrewd as he was. It's as if he noticed my underlying intention, and his reply tells me that I must put an effort and risk my life, too. Ha ha ha. Silver Moon did not reveal anything on the surface, laughing as he said, by your words, it appears as if we are now two ants on a piece of string, advancing and retreating together. It's such a pity that I can't be in stealth. Revealing our presence too early will instead alert 1,000 miles drunk, and that won't be good. Oh, hearing you say that gives me a pretty good idea, No Smile said. What idea? Silver Moon was suspicious. 1,000 miles drunk and your enmity runs deep, so he's bound to slay you the moment he sees you, right? No Smile asked. What do you mean? If you reveal yourself while we're engaging in combat, I believe that you'll be able to divert a good portion of his attention, and this will make it easier for me to get closer to him, which then translates to us having an easier time succeeding, don't you think so? No Smile was flashing him the brightest smile. No, that's no good. The speed at which 1,000 miles drunk attacks is frighteningly fast. Plus, he has the blink spell. If I show myself, there's a high chance of him blinking right over to me and insta-killing me, barely giving us even a second to react between. Even though it's nothing for me to lose a level, since I'm only in my 30s, the problem is that not only will we fail to divert his attention, my death also means that the king's command buff will be lost. Won't I just end up implicating Brother No Smile? Silver Moon appealed. Brother Silver Moon, you've forgotten that there are others ambushing Thousand Miles Drunk. We've got to consider the mana expenditure Thousand Miles Drunk will incur when he takes on these people as well. He's a mage with an all agility build, so he doesn't really have a lot of mana to begin with. The way I see it, by the time it's our turn to attack, he should have already used up most of his mana, so how will he be able to cast Blink or any damage spells by the time he's facing us? No Smile said. Bro, we can't use common sense when it comes to Thousand Miles Drunk, Silver Moon refuted somberly. Who knows if he even uses his spells to take those people down? From what I know, he did not use any spells when he was hunting down Brother No Smile back then. Haha, that's when everyone still had low levels. Besides, I'm just an insignificant character who hardly qualifies as an expert, so of course I will hardly be worth using his spells on. But that was then, and now is now. Brother Silver Moon has also witnessed Broken Water Arrow's expertise firsthand. Yeah? There's no way Thousand Miles Drunk can take care of him as easily as how he's slain me, No Smile reasoned. Oh, no, no. No. Look here, bro. The two continued along the way speaking in this ambiguous fashion. While they appeared to be harmonious on the surface, their conversation was tinged with sarcasm and ridicule, even going as far as to resort to personal attacks. Both had the same line of thought: I'll be the one getting any advantage, you can go to hell. In the end, they were equally matched, and the harmonious discussion they had stuck in a stalemate even when they reached the location, which was really quite a solid effort for these two men of eloquence. This place. The clandestine battle between the two came to a standstill once the two reached the location, and they began to observe their surroundings. No Smile walked all around and discovered that the trade exchange was just 200 meters away from the street entrance, and that was a safe zone. No Smile turned around and saw that Silver Moon was still on the other end of the street, looking everywhere around him. He hurried over to call him, pointing to the street entrance as he spoke with a straight face. Bro, let's be done with the jokes. The trade exchange is right over there. When everything comes to a head, leave me be if you realize that things have gone awry. Hurry up and head in that direction, and I'll try my best to stall Thousand Miles Drunk. Silver Moon froze up, and he promptly seized both of No Smile's hands tight. Bro, not another word. No Smile pulled one of his hand out and patted Silver Moon on his back. With your level, I reckon that you won't have the heart to carry on playing if you lose more levels, so you gotta protect that. By your words, I can't ever lose another level at any rate. Silver Moon nodded vigorously. Yes. No Smile nodded as well before looking all around them. I wonder if the other ambushers are here now. Let's ask. Silver Moon said as he sent a message to Yixiao, telling him that they had reached the location but did not see any of the other ambushers. Looks like they've concealed themselves very well. Are you two unable to sniff out where they are hiding? Yixiao asked. Where are they? Silver Moon was confused. Where are the two of you positioned, exactly? Yixiao asked. We're standing right by the corner of the T-junction at the set of coordinates you've given us, Silver Moon answered. Look over to the southeast, Yixiao instructed. Silver Moon turned in that direction. What am I looking at? What do you see? Yixiao asked. Silver Moon came to a realization. Those two stalls in that street corner? That's right. Yixiao said. Silver Moon tugged at No Smile, pointing to the two players with their stalls set up over yonder. One of us? No Smile asked. Silver Moon nodded. Those two aren't even level 40. No Smile knitted his eyebrows. Silver Moon posed this question to Yixiao, and the man replied politely, You're not level 40, either, but you're also an important character. Silver Moon instantly understood that level was not the key here. What should really matter was that the two probably possessed some sort of unique skill. Just like his King's Command, and No Smile's Vanish, ordinary players would not have them, so these ambushers they are working with must have gotten skills through special means as well. It was unknown just how powerful the skills were, but it should be the fundamental fact that their existence was outside the knowledge of the average players, which was why players would inevitably be at a loss on what to do when they suddenly stumbled upon it. Everyone had plenty of experience dealing with skills like Cyclone, Backstab, and repeating fireballs, But what would happen when they came across a skill they did not have complete understanding of? All of a sudden, Silver Moon received a huge boost of confidence. He originally thought that those other players used to encircle Thousand Miles Drunk for this plan would be mere cannon fodders, but now it looked as if each one of them had certain tricks up their sleeves, and Thousand Miles Drunk would be left spinning once each of them used their unique skills before finally letting him and No Smile deal the killing blow. This plan is really wonderful. Anyone else aside from the two there? Silver Moon asked again. You guys can't see the stealth thief, and the others will pass by when the time comes, Yeezy said. I see. You've gotten the timing down pat, huh? Silver Moon asked. Having a handle of the situation and terrain and the timing will naturally sync up. Broken Water Arrow is still searching for Thousand Miles Drunk's whereabouts, so you two should hide yourselves first. Don't attract anyone's attention, Yeezy informed. No problem. Silver Moon and No Smile were no amateurs in this aspect. When Silver Moon relayed to him what Yeezy had said, he also felt his confidence surge. He originally thought that everyone was going to brave their deaths to succeed in this attempt, but when he realized just how thorough this plan was, his sense of security increased as well. The two men each tried their best to blend into their surroundings, patiently waiting for the time to pass. Just thinking of them having the chance to slay their nemesis, Thousand Miles Drunk, left the two of them feeling anxious and excited that even the back of their hands started sweating. Take note. It was unclear how long had passed when the two suddenly received a message from Yeezy. It was like the arrival of their adversary as Silver Moon and No Smile each clutched their weapons, hurriedly replying, which direction? With the various roads and alleys leading to the street that they were on, the two men needed to know which path Thousand Miles Drunk was taking. In the end, just as they fired off their query, they saw a whole bunch of players barreling out from various roads. It was unclear what they were here for, but they were apparently heading toward the junction that the two of them were currently positioned. Fuck, is this how they would pass by? Silver Moon was seething, feeling that these players were all too unreasonable. Was the plan not for them to pretend they were just pedestrians? Running so energetically like that was far too conspicuous. It was far too different from those two players who had set their stalls up. It would be a huge problem if the quality of these players were too low. Why, back in the days when I was guild leader. Silver Moon's thoughts accidentally wandered too far, while the players that came trampling along began looking all around them once they reached the junction. A display that was utterly overt that even Silver Moon could not stand it. Though he felt that he should not expose his hiding spot beforehand, seeing these people do things that made it seem as if an entire trap was about to be sprung here. What was the point of him hiding so well? Silver Moon thought to raise his hand and signal to these players before him to make less of a scene. Waiting until the person was facing his direction, Silver Moon moved to gesticulate when he caught sight of that person's face. It was as if his throat had automatically seized up, as he twisted his head away in the last second as he wondered to himself, why is he here? This he that Silver Moon was talking about was just another average player, but what surprised him was for this person to have been a comrade of his old past deeds in Y City. If this person saw Silver Moon, he would surely call for his head on his bike. This was when he understood a little of the pain Yeezy had undergone for this plan. It was no wonder that he kept feeling as if his participation in this plan was so minute. It turned out that it was because there were such other players involved, and it would truly be rather troublesome if they met. Limiting his involvement to just this one attack at such a crucial moment was clearly the best choice here. With such a thought, Silver Moon adopted the mentality to consider the overall situation, pretending to be a person passing by as he sought to distance himself from that man. Pretending was something Silver Moon was very adept at by now. Sure enough, the player did not recognize him. Rejoicing this fact internally, Silver Moon thought to get No Smile to remind these people to be less conspicuous with their action in his stead or to look for the two players with their stalls. After a round of deliberation, Silver Moon felt that it might be a little too obvious to get No Smile and figured it would be easier to just privately relay this to the players pretending to hawk their wares. In the end, when his eyes went over to those two players, he instead found them panicking when they witnessed that pack of players gushing into the junction. In that moment, the two were packing their items and taking down their stalls while they looked as if they would leave. Is Thousand Miles Drunk about a pier, so they are acting this way? Silvermoon's eyes searched all around him, yet he was unable to spot that figure which inspired great fear in him. At this point, the two players had finished packing everything and was ready to leave. That was when Silvermoon suddenly sensed something was off and was about to send a message to inquire about it when he received No Smile's message. "I'm in trouble. I saw my adversary." "Your adversary?" Silvermoon was confused. "July from Yunjuan City. I have no idea why she came all the way here." No Smile said. Silvermoon was startled. He chanced upon his ex-comrade from past deeds whom he now had enmity with, and No Smile met the woman whom he had a huge fallout. Meanwhile, those two players with their stalls had run off on their own. "Oh, crap. Could this have been a trap?" Silvermoon replied. "What? I've met my enemy as well. Plus, those two players with their stalls set up in the distance has left." "Where are you now?" Silvermoon asked. "I'm stealthed," No Smile replied. Silvermoon was on the verge of tears, for with a lift of his eyes, he spotted another former comrade of his from the eradicated past deeds. Seeing twice at one go like this, it could not be mere coincidence anymore, right? These people all look to be searching for something or someone. Could it be me? No Smile's enemies have appeared as well, so are they actually searching for No Smile? No Smile has stealth, and even if he runs, he'll be fast enough to escape, but what about me? Besides, my enemies are far scarier than his. Old comrades, old foes, how many people will that be combined? Are all of them here already?" Right now, Silvermoon dared not to even take another look at these players arriving at the junction. He pretended to be a passerby as he unhurriedly went his way. Even though he deeply wished to flee from this area, he knew deep down that he could not go about it urgently. "Silvermoon, where do you think you're going?" Silvermoon heard this question being shouted, and his face went white as sheet. As he had expected, the moment this was shouted, every player present was all stirred and devoted their attention right onto him. Their eyes were fixed right on the player who was passing by. Was it No Smile, that asshole? Silvermoon was unable to discern whose voice it was, but he immediately thought that it could perhaps be No Smile intentionally shouting this in order to divert everyone's attention away, so he would have the chance to slip away. In the end, before that notion cemented in his mind, he immediately heard another cry out. "No Smile, don't you stealth away. Trap." "It's definitely a premeditated trap." It was in this instant when Silvermoon no longer suspected anything else. Indubitably, this was a big trap set up for No Smile and him. Silvermoon pulled out his friends list in his rage and demanded an answer from Yixiao. "What's the meaning of this? Why did you sell us out?" Yixiao was the one who had given them this set of coordinates, and the entire ambush plan was strategized by him as well. At this point, Silvermoon finally understood that there was no ambush waiting for Thousand Miles Drunk right from the start, but there was an encirclement laid here, and its targets were for No Smile and him. However, Silvermoon could not make sense of things. Neither he nor No Smile had any animosity with Yixiao. So why would that man need to come up with such a plan? It was Yixiao who had pulled him out from the figurative fire before, yet he was also the one who pushed him back into it for later. Just what exactly was going on? Silvermoon's message went out like a sinking stone in the ocean. He received no reply. At the moment, he no longer dared to maintain his composure, as while it was unknown who had shouted before, it caused all those ex-comrades of his to inspect all the players leaving the area. It would be really strange if they would fail to identify him in such a scenario. In fact, Silvermoon already saw two players making their way to him. With a quick sweep of his surroundings, Silvermoon raised his sword, bestowed a shower of golden light on himself, before making a break for it. "It's Silvermoon, he's here." These players knew what Silvermoon's King's Command looked like when activated, so they immediately recognized him the moment he swathed himself in that golden light. A good number of players instantly turned in this direction and pounced on their target. With that 30% stat increase from single targeting himself with King's Command, and the fact that Silvermoon had his torque of leadership, which let him completely utilize King's Blade to its fullest potential once more, his sword's damage was nothing to scoff at. Silvermoon slashed at the two players that had come forward to obstruct his path as he burst forth. He no longer had any other options right now. He needed to make it to the trade exchange, which was just 200 meters away. It was No Smile who had pointed it out to him while exchanging verbal spats as they were making their way over. Silvermoon did not really believe that the guy would be so kind as to lure out an escape route for him, but at the moment, he was truly left with no choice. Meanwhile, No Smile's situation was indeed far better than Silvermoon's. He was in no hurry to reveal himself since he had the advantage of stealth, and he had been secretly watching Silvermoon's action this whole time. Once he saw Silvermoon began his move to the trade exchange, No Smile took the route he had picked out before. Indeed, No Smile had not pointed out the trade exchange to Silvermoon out of the kindness of his heart. Once everything went south, he had already expected Silvermoon to seek temporary shelter in the trade exchange building, which he had previously learned the location of. This was as good as letting No Smile know what everyone would proceed to do, as the angry mob present would naturally head over in that direction to intercept the man. All No Smile wanted was to obtain this opening opportunity, but this was originally intended as a countermeasure against Thousand Miles Drunk. He never truly expected for things to turn out like this and for so many opponents to appear in just such a short time. However, no matter who the enemy was or how many there were, Silvermoon ultimately only had that one escape route. No Smile sighed in relief upon the discovery that more people opted to chase after Silvermoon than to stick around. Nevertheless, he did not dare to act trashly, for he had already spotted Thousand Miles Drunk appearing on the street. Chapter 613, Prophetic Emperor. No Smile was not particularly familiar with Gufei's figure, as the deepest impression of Gufei was when the man was still attired in his beginner's mage robes, with a cloth over his face as he wielded a one-handed saber. Now, Gufei's known far and wide across parallel world for his look with that black robe, and although this was a set of equipment that was far more powerful than what Gufei had on back then, it was that old get-up that had left a deep psychological scar in the recesses of No Smile's subconscious, so he was actually feeling less of a pressure now that he was facing the black-robed Gufei. However, No Smile's mind was still in turmoil at this time. This was because the direction that Gufei was coming in from was the path he had intended to retreat toward. But if he were to continue on this path, the two would surely pass each other in such a close proximity that there could be nothing else more harrowing for No Smile. He firmly believed Gufei had the ability to detect stealth, but was the method truly as what Broken Water Arrow had said, that it was really some sort of intuition? After having been so nakedly betrayed, No Smile had a hard time believing Broken Water Arrow's fantastical explanation. In such a situation, why would he dare test it out by walking right by Gufei himself? I can't take this safe path. No Smile made his decision and was already prepared to carefully thread his way through the troop of female players that July had led. In the end, it was right at this moment when the ladies suddenly each took out a cloth pouch and dispersed its content with an extension of their arm, scattering white dust all around the junction. No Smile pretty much had to lay prone on the ground in order to avoid contact with that cloud of white dust. At a loss for what to do, No Smile quickly retreated away, as he was sure to be surrounded if that white dust were to disrupt his stealth. There was no point even if he activated his vanish then, since that skill would not turn him immaterial, allowing him to slip through a physical body undetected. The despondent No Smile could only detest the fact that the wide street had nothing like a table for him to hide under. The open space that could be seen in a single glance meant it was only a matter of time before the white dust they toss out would expose his presence. Meanwhile, the even more frightening existence that was Thousand Miles Drunk continued his advance from the path behind No Smile, which made it even less of an option worth considering. Since discovery meant his death, No Smile gritted his teeth and decided it was better to bet everything on a risky gambit. With his eyes set upon a lady, No Smile slowly crept toward her, revealing himself right before she tossed out the white cloud of dust again. That lady exclaimed in her astonishment, but that white dust in her hand was still released nonetheless. No Smile made no effort to dodge it since there was no need to do so, darting forward head first into that white cloud and made it right behind that lady's back, plunging his dagger out for a backstab before he made to grab her arm and tugged it to her back, yelling loudly, "Don't anyone move! Don't you dare use heal, Luoyuo!" This sudden change startled the group of ladies. Luoyuo was originally about to bestow her heal, but she promptly stopped herself when No Smile preemptively called her out on it. She very quickly understood No Smile's intention, and immediately did not dare to make any sudden moves. Instead, it was the lady whom No Smile had a hold of who was putting up a vigorous struggle. No Smile had to put in quite a bit of effort just wrenching that arm of hers, so he simply extended his other arm and snared her neck in a choke hold. "That's why we're old friends, you know very well what my intentions are." No Smile smirked. "Do you even consider yourself human?" July was looking livid, especially considering the relationship she once had with this man. She felt a sense of nausea overcame her. "Of course I'm human, plus it's because I'm a human who understands you so well, which is why I know this method is absolutely effective against you, right?" Indeed, No Smile had a good grasp of July's personality. Grabbing someone to become a human hostage is nothing in a game, and it was only ladies like July that would mind, particularly because her personal grudge with No Smile. The man had already guessed July would surely be unwilling to sacrifice her own friend for this, so in order to protect this woman he was now holding hostage, July would most definitely acquiesce to his demands as long as his request was nothing too outrageous. Nevertheless, holding a hostage in submission was not that easy. After all, this was still a game, and the penalty for death was just losing a level. Hostages would not be afraid and would be fairly uncooperative. This was why No Smile had picked a weak little mage, having used appraisal the moment he revealed himself and hurriedly glanced at her equipment and level. After he confirmed that she would not die to his backstab did he actually deliver the blow. No Smile was a thief who had invested quite a bit of his stat points into strength, so he barely had any difficulty holding her captive. Furthermore, as this mage had already taken a backstab from him, all it would take was a simple stab to finish her off. No Smile was being very cautious at this moment, deathly afraid that this woman would intentionally commit suicide using his dagger. "Call 1,000 miles drunk to stay away, quick." No Smile knew there was actually hardly any value in holding a hostage right now, as he was relying solely on the friendship and care these ladies showed toward each other. But what if their friendship was not that deep? This was precisely why No Smile did not dare to drag this out and instantly issued his demand. "Miles, please don't go over there." July had already spotted Gouffet and hurriedly sent him a message, especially since he had already began sprinting toward No Smile the moment he appeared. However, Gouffet never was in the spirit to chat, much less check his messages during such crucial moments, which was why he had ignored her plea and continued to make a beeline to No Smile. July was alarmed. Even though she had misjudged No Smile once, she still had quite a good understanding of him. She was certain that he would be okay with taking another's life with him when he was backed into a corner and had no way out. "Miles, don't come over." July could only shout this out in this time of crisis, to at least let No Smile know that she had indeed done as he had demanded. Say what?" Gouffet appeared not to have heard her clearly, as he ran even faster. Actually, he had already heard what July had shouted, and had of course seen No Smile grabbing hold of Ice Glaze. He more or less guessed the situation, and he had only faked not hearing her in an attempt to get closer to the scene. "Don't come over." July was already bouncing in her anxiety. Even Luoyuo had quickly run over to bar Gouffet advance. "You're pretending you can't hear her, huh?" Luoyuo had easily seen through what Gouffet was thinking. "Ahem. How could I?" "What are you all up to?" Gouffet asked casually, as if he was just passing by. "Enough with your act already." When No Smile finally saw Gouffet come to a stop, he let loose a sigh of relief. However, he did not dare to be careless, conscientiously using Ice Glaze like a shield which he kept between him and Gouffet. "Quick, let me pass." No Smile did not dare to stay for long as he swiftly shouted to get people on both sides to back off. "Can you insta-kill him?" Luoyuo quietly asked Gouffet. "How much HP does he have?" Gouffet was actually at a distance where he would be able to use his spells to attack No Smile, but he simply cannot tell if he could insta-kill the man. He would have sent a lightning bolt tripping through the skies if he could ascertain the kill. "I just appraised his equipment. A conservative estimate should be about so much." Luoyuo reported a rough estimation of No Smile's HP. "No, I can't insta-kill him, unless I get near him." Gouffet knew how much damage his lightning bolt could do, and it was not enough to send No Smile back to the spawn point. "Don't you know how to blink?" Luoyuo said. "Woman, I'm still 8 meters out from him." Gouffet said. "So if I didn't stop you?" then he just might have jumped the gun in his panic. Gufei sighed. No Smile was an enemy whom he had offended a long time ago, and Gufei reckoned he was most likely the imaginary opponent No Smile would dream about, so why would he not be on guard against his blank? Then why did you rush in knowing that? Luo Yuo chided. I just wanted to find out who this person was, okay? Gufei said. It's No Smile, have you forgotten? Luo Yuo asked. I wouldn't have recognized the man if I didn't get close. Gufei said. Look, he's still hiding his face. What are you two whispering over there about? No Smile bellowed. Gufei was already someone whom he paid close attention to. No Smile could feel his resentment burst forth when he realized the man was nowhere as flustered as the other ladies, and was there having an engaging conversation with Luo Yuo. None of your business. Gufei waved his hand dismissively, indicating to the others to ignore him and Luo Yuo. All the ladies were unamused, as No Smile urged again, quick, let me through. July was also hoping Gufei would have a chance to turn the tables on this situation now that he was here, which was why everyone had very intentionally backed off so slowly, that there was not even a clear path during the whole time Gufei was chatting with Luo Yuo. No Smile felt his patience was being thoroughly challenged and was about to say something when he did not expect Gufei to actually side with him on this. Everyone, give way to him quickly. Don't dawdle. Everyone was surprised, and even No Smile was a little puzzled. In the end, he heard Gufei's following words, let him get away faster, so I can hunt him down. No Smile vomited blood. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly heard someone shout, ah, what sort of situation is this? A kidnapping? Ah, that's a huge deal. Everybody turned to see who was the one yelling this, only to see someone racing down that street Gufei was coming from, shouting loudly even as this person pulled something out from his dimensional pocket in his panicky scramble. Who's this? No Smile was of course very wary to this newcomer. Hello Mr. Kidnapper, I am the reporter Dama from Good Games Network. I wonder if you mind sparing a few minutes of your time to answer some of my questions? This player was Damu. He was originally interviewing Gufei with his partner Mewtwo, when Gufei suddenly mentioned he received news and was going off to slay someone. 1,000 miles drunk killing someone. The two reporters would of course love to do a live report of this, but it was regrettable that the two of them did not have the movement speed that Gufei possessed to keep up with the man. Naturally, Gufei was not about to let something like this hamper with something as huge as slaying someone. So even though the three had departed with a destination in mind, they each came in at different times, with Gufei being the fastest, Damu coming in slightly behind, while who knows where the very average Mage Mewtwo still was. Damu Mewtwo? Some of the players present immediately echoed this name, for Damu and Mewtwo had always published their articles together using that name. Players who liked Good Gaming Network would be no stranger to them. It just so happened that No Smile was a registered user with the site, and was familiar with this name, and he had even seen Damu and Mewtwo in person a couple of times. Some time ago, the two had visited Y City in order to interview Dusky Cloud and the others from the 10 Guild Alliance, and No Smile had watched this unfold as an onlooker. After that, when he was staking out Silver Moon over at Beishi City, the two made an appearance once more and were interviewing the players, even going so far as to camp out a day and night with the rest, in hopes to waiting for Silver Moon to come online and ask a few questions to the notorious man himself. It was unfortunate that they had not managed to get an interview in the end. Now that he was looking at this person, No Smile was able to recognize Damu, but why would No Smile be in any mood to accept an interview at a time like this? Besides, he did not think this matter of him attempting to kidnap Ice Glaze was anything honorable. In the end, before he could even say a word, Damu's professionalism was already in full display, firing off a series of questions at No Smile like a continuous torrent. Mr. Kidnapper, is it convenient for you to tell us your name? Mr. Kidnapper, why are you targeting this lady to kidnap? This is only a game. Why do you have the confidence of succeeding in your abduction, Mr. Kidnapper? Furthermore, it seems like you've been rather successful with it. If you won't be too inconvenienced, please answer us. Damu asked with utmost earnesty. No Smile was stunned for a good half a minute before finally recovering. He immediately knitted his eyebrows and angrily yelled, I'm not free. Quick, Go stand by the side. If you don't do as I say, we'll just end it here and now. All the ladies quickly headed in the direction No Smile pointed. When Damu saw No Smile was in no mood to accept an interview, he turned toward Gufei. Miles, is this the person you hurried over to slay? In other words, you must surely have history with this person. But of course. The man's IGN is No Smile. But I wasn't looking for him when I came here. I had heard Silver Moon would be here. Why can't I find him? Gufei and Damu had spent a whole morning together by now, so he was answering his questions like a consummate professional. Silver Moon ran toward the trade exchange. No Smile very quickly betrayed Silver Moon's location. It would be the best case scenario if Gufei would immediately abandon hunting him and target Silver Moon instead. Oh, are you going there too? Gufei asked. Enough with your nonsense. Everyone, turn around and face your backs to me. No Smile was ill-tempered. Everyone did as according to his demands. But Damu was still fielding questions toward Gufei there. No Smile? Isn't he the same No Smile whom you consecutively killed back then? Yup, that's the one. Oh, isn't that something that happened long ago? What are your thoughts on seeing No Smile right here, right now? He's still a man deserving of a good chop. So what is your opinion with regards to him doing something like this kidnapping? Barbaric. He's acting no better than a beast. Then do you know what's his goal for this kidnapping? I suggest you ask guild leader July this question. July? The leader of the all-female guild from Yeonju-on City. I've long since looked up to you. I've always wanted to find an opportunity to interview you. It was of course impossible for July to be anywhere as renowned as Gufei, but Damu nevertheless was a well-informed netizen of gossip circles, and was not just any average player. Moreover, his sight was set on the entire game, not just any particular city. As a guild that had enjoyed the limelight during the guild competition, and with how he kept his eyes out for the guild Amethyst Rebirth that had all female members, it was uncertain whether his kind words of saying "I've always wanted to find an opportunity to interview you" was a compliment or otherwise. But it was apparent that Damu did not have a good grasp of the situation with Amethyst Rebirth in July, as Gufei was already smoldering with anger saying, "Who said this lady's July? She's the fighter over there." Gufei's gaze had been casually maintaining his eye contact in a direction when he spoke of July, so Damu had simply assumed that Luo, standing beside Gufei, was July and came forward to mistakenly address her as such. I'm truly sorry to have made such a mistake. So you're actually July? Damu was not in the least bit embarrassed, smoothly making his way over to the lady. This man was truly a reporter, through and through, expertly navigating through potentially awkward situations when an opportunity presented itself was his forte. Since you're the guild leader of Amethyst Rebirth, July, then I more or less understand your No Smile problem here. Hey. Damu chuckled. As a bona fide netizen of gossip circles, why would he not be aware of the July and No Smile's historical saga? July, of course, could hardly be bothered to argue with the man over trifling details, but she had no idea what else to say either as she wrinkled her brow. No Smile could only pretend as if that man was not present, and when he saw that everyone had their backs to him as he had demanded, he suddenly shoved Ice Glaze to one side and activated his stealth. Someone who had been listening for any sounds of movement promptly turned her head back and saw Ice Glaze fallen on the ground. Meanwhile, she noted that No Smile had already disappeared, and she quickly shouted, "No Smile's missing." Everybody turned their heads back, while Gufei rushed out 2 meters before blinking right beside Ice Glaze. Twin Incineration, Descending Wheel of Flames, Blazing Tree of 1,000 Inferno. All these spells consecutively blanketed the surrounding area, yet No Smile remained nowhere to be found. At the moment, Gufei was unable to sense where No Smile was either, because it was evident that the man was not paying attention to him right now. No Smile had always been paying attention to what Gufei had been doing all this while, yet it just so happened that he was not doing so right now. Could it be that he knows about how I can sense people in stealth? Only someone with the foundations of a martial practitioner would know about this, and the only people whom Gufei had met in the game that would qualify were just Eternal Dominion and Broken Water Arrow. Even though Guxian had tremendous expertise in Kung Fu in the game, It was not possible for him to have grasped this sort of intuition. Could Broken Water Arrow have told him? Gufei thought about this even as he helped Ice Glaze up to her feet. July was also instructing all the ladies to spread white dust all over, in hopes of bathing No Smile in it, except the chances of success was very slim. Nobody knew which direction No Smile had ran off to, and it looked like he was no longer around anymore. You guys go ahead about your business. I'll head over to the trade exchange and take a look, Gufei said. Searching for Silver Moon? July asked. Yup, Gufei continued along his way as he turned his head back. Inform me as well if you've any information on No Smile. Won't that be troubling you? July said. Oh no. Slaying people is my hobby. Please, Gufei hurriedly replied. Alright. July said. Thanks. Gufei happily left, leaving July in a state of confusion. Just who should be thanking whom in this situation? Over by the trade exchange, Silver Moon had successfully managed to escape with his life, but he had already been surrounded by a thronging mob of players, and there was no way he could escape any longer. These people were all Bluey's men, mostly comrades of Silver Moon from before, and they were yelling about the various despicable acts that Silver Moon had committed. Silver Moon was ghastly pale, trapped inside this mob. Even though this was a safe zone, it was not a designated log-off point, so logging off would not be the safest thing, which meant all Silver Moon could do for the time being was bear with this abuse. The crowd immediately spotted Gufei upon his arrival, and they were all gratified. Brother Miles have arrived as well. Yes. Here I am. Where's Vast Lushness? Sakurazaka-muni? Gufei asked. Over here. The answer came from somewhere behind. Gufei turned around and saw Sakurazaka-muni had eagerly stepped out without any need for further prompts right behind Vast Lushness. Drunk bro, you arrived even faster than I did. Sakurazaka-muni said. How did you locate Silver Moon? Gufei came rushing over after he received a message from Sakurazaka-muni. I saw it on the forums. Sakurazaka-muni answered. Forums? Gufei was shocked. Yeah, I don't know who it was, but there was a post up on the forums that stated Silver Moon would be here, so those people with grudges against the man could head over and get their revenge, while those without any enmity to head over and avenge others, Sakurazaka-muni said. Oh yeah, we saw the post as well, which was why we gathered everyone together for this operation. Someone from Bluey's group chimed in as well. Gufei felt there was something a little strange about this matter, suddenly wondering why July and her ladies would turn up in Beishi City for no reason. Thus, he quickly sent a message over to ask. Cat saw someone post in the forums claiming No Smile had appeared in Beishi City and came back to the guild to inform everyone, and everybody ended up making a din about coming over. July conveyed her helplessness. It seemed like she was not particularly concerned about the matter herself, but she could not contain the passion the others showed toward this matter. Actually, the ladies were usually very united, especially when it came to helping one another. It had gotten to the point where it was like they were covering up their shortcomings, choosing to help someone they hold dear to them, despite reason. Another post on the forums. What's going on? How could everybody believe whatever they end up reading up there? Gufei mused. Drunk bro, you might not be aware, but this wasn't just any sort of post, Sakurazaka-muni mysteriously said. This poster has a nickname, called the Prophetic Emperor. The many things that he had posted about the game had all come true, which was why everybody had no reason to doubt the credibility of the information when the coordinates of these two players were posted. Chapter 614, Observing the Lamb. Prophetic Emperor? Gufei repeated in his confusion. Drunk bro, have you not heard that name before? Sakurazaka-muni asked. Nope. Gufei shook his head. It was unfortunate that Brother Assist was not around, otherwise, he would surely have the most comprehensive information about forum matters. There was already someone who opened up just as Sakurazaka-muni was about to introduce Gufei to the Prophetic Emperor. The IGN for the Prophetic Emperor is one autumn leaf, and was originally one of the moderators for the official forums of Parallel World, specifically the board for gossip and rumors. His prophecies actually never begin in threads but his posts, especially when it comes to the more contentious topics in the game. Aside from meaningless conversation, it was discovered that the things this person said would ultimately be verified as reality. As for the nickname of Prophetic Emperor, It started because there was once a player who started a thread, self-proclaiming to be an emperor of prophecies, saying he was about to make several deductions toward the game development trend. Later on, one Autumn Leaf replied criticizing these deductions the original poster made. There's no need for me to explain what ended up happening, right? Anyway, the nickname Prophetic Emperor stuck with the user One Autumn Leaf. Because of his identity as a moderator, everybody had always been guessing he must be an internal employee of the game company. We once attempted to contact this Prophetic Emperor for an interview, but he politely rejected. However, quite a little while ago, One Autumn Leaf was no longer a moderator for the Gossip and Rumors board. Sakurazaka Muni had originally wanted to give a detailed account of everything, but had never expected someone to snatch the opportunity from right under his nose. He saw that this person was following behind Gufei, but he did not recognize him at all, so he casually asked, "Who are you?" "The name's Damu, a reporter from Good Games Network." Damu introduced himself. "Damumadu." Someone yelped. Sakurazaka Muni felt that wave of sadness that just came over him when somebody stole his thunder all the more prominently. After straightening out his equipment, he approached Damu in an upright posture. "So it's reporter Damu. Sorry for my lack of respect there. I'm the guild leader Sakurazaka Muni of the guild Forever in Flowers, from Yonju-on City. The aim of our guild is..." Before Sakurazaka Muni could even finish, Gufei had clasped his hand over his mouth and pushed him aside. He could already imagine that the aim Sakurazaka Muni was about to espouse would surely be something unspeakable. But who would have thought Damu would actually demonstrate his depth of knowledge in gossip, not only knowing about Forever in Flower? That man even nodded as he smiled. "Is it to sticking an arm out from amidst the flowers, leading on the ladies we touched, that Forever in Flowers?" The moment Sakurazaka Muni heard that this person had actually heard of them, he was instantly beside himself with joy as he called out while struggling to push Gufei's hand away, "Yup yup yup. We also have another mission statement." "Okay, that's enough." Vast Lushness quickly came to help stop Sakurazaka Muni from saying anything else. Her one quip was far stronger than Gufei's kung fu in this scenario, as Sakurazaka Muni immediately shut up, not even asking why, as he flashed a pleasant smile at Damu. "We can chat later." Both Gufei and Vast Lushness were embarrassed seeing that look he gave, while Bluey's and his men did not get along with Sakurazaka Muni and his bunch, so they were all laughing like it was a joke. But Damu did not seem fazed by it, actually nodding his head and returning his smile. Damu had seen all kinds of people from all walks of life in his line of work. As long as it was a topic he was interested in, he did not care how reprehensible or noble someone was. Besides, people nowadays were very interested in reprehensible things. Damu once interviewed a kind-hearted person who found looting dropped equipment distasteful and refrained from doing so. Damu thought that the subject would receive a round of praise after doing a detailed article about that man, but he ended up being called a fool by the masses instead, and even Damumadu were lambasted as idiots for covering said report. This caused Damu to feel the extent of society's moral degeneracy, and from then on, he only focused on topics that were interesting to people, no longer caring about ethics anymore. Forever in Flowers. Yes, doing an article on this should resonate with plenty of people. The look he had on his face was very skeevy as well, looking very Forever in Flower. Why? Ahem. Gufei coughed heavily, as everyone came back to their senses and Damu spoke after that bout of excitement. "Oh, where were we?" "Prophetic Emperor," Gufei said. "Ah yes. That's more or less everything about the Prophetic Emperor. Since he was the one who had released information about Silver Moon and No Smile's location, then how did he know the movement of the two? Actually, why don't we ask Silver Moon and find out?" Damu said. The crowd was stunned. They watched as Damu squeezed through the crowd and stood before the pitiful Silver Moon huddled in the trade exchange. "Silver Moon, how do you do? I'm the online reporter for Good Games Network, Damu. I wonder if you mind me taking up a few minutes of your time to ask a few questions?" Damu was very professional, and this was something he often repeated to others, completely unchanged no matter who he was speaking to, expressing it with the utmost sincerity each time. Silver Moon had been through a period of time when he spent very little time in game, spending a lot of time on online forums and the like, so he was very familiar with Damumadu. However, He was obviously not in the mood to answer this question right now, as he was still trying to brainstorm a way out of his predicament, and thus he ignored Damu. Damu did not seem to be a stranger to such an attitude. If someone ignored him, he would just take it as silent consent, especially since he was in a safe zone, so there was no way he could be killed if the person was unhappy about it. Thus, he took out his paper and quill and asked, according to an informed source, "You and No Smile's appearance here was information provided by one Autumn Leaf, from the official Parallel World Gossip and Rumor Forum, better known for his nickname as Prophetic Emperor. May I know if you are aware of this matter?" Silvermoon originally did not intend to acknowledge Damu, but he froze up when he heard this and could not stand but ask, "The Prophetic Emperor, one Autumn Leaf?" "That's right, looks like you know this IGN. Does that mean you know his real identity? Why would he be aware of your actions today?" People could accept that one Autumn Leaf was able to make accurate inferences about the game's development, but it's just a little too fantastical for him to be able to prophesize the actions of two specific players like this. "Do you, perhaps, have an explanation for this?" Damu began his explosion of questions. Only Fleeting Smile and Broken Water Arrow were aware that No Smile and him would appear at this place, and the two had been very careful with hiding themselves once they arrived, to the point it was impossible for any passerby to identify him. Taking a step back, even if someone did recognize him, the same could not be said for No Smile. After all, that man was hiding in stealth back then, so even if somebody had equipment which detected stealth, all they would know was that there was a thief present, but there was no way people would know who the thief really was. "It's Fleeting Smile. That guy is the Prophetic Emperor, one Autumn Leaf." Silvermoon blurted out. "Fleeting Smile?" Damu very quickly recorded it down, lifting what he had written before Silvermoon and showed him. "Is this how it's written? This a player? What's his job class? What level is he at? This person's a he, or she? Are you close to him? How did he know you'll be here?" Silvermoon's expressionless face stared at Damu. "You motherfucker." Damu sure lived up to his name as a reporter who had seen all sorts of winds and waves. The man disregarded that expletive and continued to solemnly say, "I hope you would answer the questions I just asked." Silvermoon was ruffled, and was about to continue cursing when even Goofy squeezed into the crowd and asked, "Fleeting Smile?" Silvermoon was startled yet again when he saw Goofy, but he quickly recovered before he instantly and impatiently divulged everything. "That's right. That guy had been secretly plotting against you all this time. You should hurry and slay him." There was no reason Silvermoon would still protect Yeezyahoo's intentions after everything that happened, so the moment he saw Goofy, he made sure to blurt out the truth and throw the man under the bus. To him, Goofy and Yeezyahoo were each other's nemesis, so he would be most delighted if the two fought with one another. In the end, Goofy had merely thrown a withering gaze at Silvermoon with great contempt when he heard this. "I don't need you to tell me that. I already know." Silvermoon was stunned. When Damu heard that Goofy knew the person in question, he immediately ignored Silvermoon and slid right up beside Goofy once more and asked, "You know Fleeting Smile? What sort of person is he? What level? Man or woman?" "He's a man," Goofy confidently said, but he soon began to scratch his head. "Job class, level. I've never really noticed." "He's a priest, currently level 37. The man knows plenty of things behind the scene about this game. It's very likely that he's an internal employee of this game company, which would explain why he could be the Prophetic Emperor." "No wonder." Silvermoon said this loudly, as he had suddenly discovered another avenue of revenge he could take. He had yet to confirm if Fleeting Smile was really a company employee or not, but Damu has an ability that not even expert gamers had, the ability to assess and steer public opinion. If he were to treat this as the truth and make an article about it, then attention would nationally be drawn to Fleeting Smile, and the game company will have no choice but to investigate it. If this turned out to be a bust, then Damu's report would be wrong, but if it were true, then Fleeting Smile would be in deep trouble. Thinking about this, Silvermoon got very excited, even beginning to sigh why there was no such information on Thousand Miles Drunk that would kill the man when it came to light. "An internal employee. Is that true?" Damu perked up several times over when he heard this. This could be considered as huge news. "Yes, it's true," Goofy nodded. "Fuck, this guy's pretty sinister to have said it with such conviction." He's way better at acting than me. Silvermoon discovered that Goofy must be sharing the same thought as him and could not help but feel a little appreciation for the man. "Oh, why are you so certain?" Damu asked. "Because he told me." Goofy said. "He? Who?" Damu pressed. Fleeting smile himself, of course. Goofy smiled. Everybody was shocked by this revelation. Silvermoon was all the more discomfited, for he felt that this lie that Goofy had said was a little too outrageous. "Why would he tell you that?" Damu felt there was a little problem. If Fleeting Smile was really an internal game company employee, he should be doing his utmost to keep it under wraps. He ran into some problems back then, and I lent him a hand." He casually mentioned that he received a few problematic reports from the game company and decided to come into the game to have a look for himself, Goofy said. "Ah, is he a GM?" Mewtwo was disappointed, for if this would be very common for a GM to get online and deal with such problems. "I'm not so sure about that," Goofy said. "No, he's definitely not a GM." Silvermoon hurriedly came to life once more. "I've been hanging around with that guy recently, and he's just like any other normal player, being online for several hours, doing quests, grinding his level, trading. Are these things GMs should do?" "Oh, you've been together with that person recently?" Damu heard this and came up beside Silvermoon again. "That's right." Silvermoon gritted his teeth and decided to come clean. "The reason why me and No Smile appeared here today is actually by his direction. Because he wants to deal with Thousand Miles Drunk, he called the two of us to first make our way over here and lie in wait. However, I never would have thought that ungrateful cat would actually betray us." "Then, may I ask if you have some sort of falling out with him?" Damu asked. "Falling out? Why would there be a falling out?" Silvermoon said. "Then why would he want to devise such a trap for the two of you?" Damu asked. "How would I know?" Silvermoon angrily replied. "Weird. Very weird." Damu shook his head and muttered to himself even as he organized everything he had just learnt from this interview. That was when someone's voice could be heard loudly from within the crowd. "Damu, where are you?" "Damu! Over here!" Damu shouted back, as a lady proceeded to squeeze her way in. It was Mewtwo. She was a normal mage, with the usual baby legs that plagued her job class. She had only just managed to arrive on the scene after everyone had been here for such a long time. "I've told you not to choose a mage already. How will you be able to rush and make it in the quickest time to collect the necessary information firsthand?" Damu nagged at Mewtwo. "Isn't that why you're here?" Mewtwo giggled. "Are you Miss Mewtwo? How do you do? I'm from Forever Inn." "Ah, drunk bro." Someone from Forever in Flowers had came forth and joined in when he saw a lady appear, but ended up getting pushed back away by Goofy. "What's the situation?" Mewtwo asked. "Have a look for yourself." Damu handed the notes he had taken down over to Mewtwo. Mewtwo browsed through the materials and began to analyze the connections. By the looks of everything, Prophetic Emperor had told Silvermoon and No Smile he wished to take down Thousand Miles Drunk, but as it turned out, the two ended up being betrayed by him. And Thousand Miles Drunk appeared here to hunt them down. Mewtwo was dumbfounded for a moment, before turning to Goofy. "Are you and Prophetic Emperor in cahoots?" Silvermoon took a moment of pause before he howled loudly. "Fuck me, so that's how it was." "You bastard, to have actually come up with such a venomous method to deal with me." Goofy had instead scoffed. "You wish. Why would I need to resort to such trickery to take on someone of the likes of you? I dare you to step out of the trade exchange right now and park with me for Goofy appraised Silvermoon's level before continuing. 27 rounds. Silvermoon was extremely dejected. Goofy was hinting that he would drop down to level 10 after the 27 rounds of park, to the point where he would no longer be able to continue parking after. Mewtwo shook her head. "If you two are not in cahoots, then I truly can't imagine what's the reason for doing all this. It would be great if I can contact the person and interview him." Damu sighed. "I'll help you ask." Goofy took the initiative to act as the go-betweens and send a message to Yizia. But it was just another sinking stone in the bottomless ocean like usual. Silvermoon was already mentally fried by this point, as he simply could not decipher just what was the relationship between Thousand Miles Drunk and Fleeting Smile. He's ignoring me," Goofy said ruefully. "Then can you at least say, why this Fleeting Smile wants to take care of you?" Damu asked Gufei again. Gufei and him were already rather familiar with each other, so they were more casual with one another. He thinks I'm breaking the balance of the game, so he wants to pacify me. Gufei laughed bitterly. Breaking the balance? Damu queried. It's the issue of fairness that you've asked me before, Gufei answered. Oh, at this rate, it's evident this man thinks of you as an unfair existence. Damu laughed. Looks like it. Gufei nodded in agreement. Then can you confirm that he is an employee from the game company? Damu asked. As long as he wasn't lying before, Gufei affirmed. Yeah. Damu nodded. It was fine as long as he said this, even if it was not an actual confirmation. He could at least be able to say self-proclaimed internal game company employee in his article. With the information gathering of this matter now at a close, Damu turned his attention back to Silver Moon. He was someone whom they had always wanted to interview but never had the opportunity to do so. Damu cleared his throat and walked right up to the man with Mewtwo. Brother Silver Moon, could you perhaps tell us just how it feels to have once been a guild leader who was extremely famous but has since fallen to such a destitute state? Scram! Silver Moon got enraged. Damu did not move, while Mewtwo continued to write furiously on her notepad by his side. Gufei wondered just what she could be writing based off of Silver Moon's curt response, so he stepped up next to her and with a glance, Gufei recited what she wrote for all to hear. When the reporter, after arduously making the trek to Beishi City and found Silver Moon surrounded by players, asked him what thoughts he had after all this time, Silver Moon's shame turned into anger, and lashed out at the reporter with an unimaginable roar. We can tell that the pressure he was feeling was really great. Ha 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 ha. The players all around them burst into unrestrained laughter. It's just a draft, Mewtwo humbly added. So what does Brother Silver Moon intend to do next? Damu was still at it with his questions. Silver Moon's face was unpleasant, and no longer said another word. He turned his head away and squatted down by one side. Gufei tilted his head and saw Mewtwo writing, faced with a question about the future. Silver Moon's face was completely in a stupor, squatting by the side like a docile lamb. Gufei did not read this out loud this time, but the other players all surely knew she must have written something, so all of them came forward to take a look. As such, Mewtwo decided to just read it out herself, much to the cheers of the crowd. Receiving such praises in person, Mewtwo was visibly excited as her cheeks flushed. Gufei swept his gaze over to Silver Moon, silently praising the man for his mental resilience, to have been able to hold on despite having treated like a joke thusly. What's everyone going to do? Gufei turned back to ask the people here to encircle Silver Moon. What else? We're gonna sow the seeds here and reap our harvest at the spawn point. We've already contacted the necessary people, and it's already getting pretty crowded over there, they said. Big bro 1,000 miles drunk, you can go about your business. There's no need for your magnificence to put in work here, someone shouted. Is that so? Then I will have to thank you all for your hard work. Gufei obeisance to the crowd, and was about to leave. Silver Moon had heard everything, and his face was ashen. Lifting his head up, he discovered Vast Lushness was also standing among the crowd looking over at him. Silver Moon's heart was lit up with the tiniest flicker of hope and was just about to say something, only to find that Vast Lushness had already turned and left the crowd, no longer turning back. Silver Moon, why don't you just be resolute and not waste everyone's time? Wouldn't you be able to go offline and rest up if you return to the spawn point? Everybody laughed. Silver Moon was grinding his teeth. This was the trade exchange. There was still a solution, and that was to purchase a teleportation scroll and leave. But the problem was that the trade exchange was not like the auction house. There was no way he could use in-game currency, and he would have to use online banking to directly transact with real currency. Silver Moon was of course not poor, but the problem was that the card number from his bank card was necessary, and he did not remember it. As such, he would have to take the risk of forcefully logging out this one time to take a look at the number. But if he did not do that, he will have to be sent to the spawn point, and he would then be camped by his enemies. Silver Moon had experienced such days once before, and he did not wish to relive that painful memory. Finally, Silver Moon steeled his heart and gritted his teeth before he forcefully disconnected from the game. Chapter 615, Ask Brother Assist. Everybody exclaimed. Gufei and the others who had turned to leave had not gone too far, and they hurried their way back when they heard the commotion. Damu and Mewtwo were the most energetic, their writing material already in their hands as they yelled, "What happened? Did something happen? Silvermoon's gone!" Someone shouted. Teleportation? Goofy wrinkled his forehead. No, he logged out. Someone yelled. These people were all originally good friends of Silvermoon's. While some people had deleted him after, some were more astute, leaving his name on their friends list like a memorabilia, in case they needed to use it when they take revenge in the future. Forceful logout. Damu and Mewtwo were both excited due to the fact that the game company had time and again emphasized the dangers of such actions. Players were all very careful about it. So aside from those cheap bastards who experimented with it during the low levels out of boredom, players would never think to forcefully log out like this once they reached a certain level, aside from incidents of accidental disconnections. The two reporters fitfully squeezed their way forward, asking the players right at the front, "Where did Silvermoon forcefully log out?" "There." Someone pointed. The two swiftly pounced upon it, closely observing the spot which Silvermoon had logged out at. Mewtwo was writing up a furious scribble yet again. The level 37 Silvermoon was compelled to forcefully log out once he had no other options left. According to this reporter's observation, the adverse effect of a forceful logout would not be apparent upon going offline, but as for the actual loss itself, we hope that the relevant player in question would quickly return so we can continue our report. The other players had plenty to discuss at this point as well. To actually do a forceful logout. Could he have decided to stop playing the game for good? Don't be fooled. This man had always been very crafty, so there's no telling this could all just be a ruse, to trick us into leaving. That's not really a clever ruse. Who's to say that we must leave once he forcefully logged out? Look, he's back. As a player shouted, a white glow enveloped the spot where Silvermoon had disappeared from, and the man materialized before the crowd. Everybody began using their appraisal skill, hoping that this one logout had changed Silvermoon's level by a whole decimal place, from 37 to 3.7. In the end, everyone was disappointed by what they gleaned, realizing there was no change to his level or equipment. Meanwhile, it had only been 5 minutes since he logged out, having hurriedly logged back into the game after memorizing his bank card number. The first thing he did upon coming back online was check his possessions, and he became petrified in the first moment. Level, skill, gold. These were not things that Silvermoon placed the most importance on. The first thing he valued was a single item, King's Blade. And when he got online, the first thing he checked was that weapon he had placed into his dimensional pocket. It was gone. The slot he had placed his King's Blade in was clearly empty. Silvermoon had not lost hope, and checked all the inventory slots in his dimensional pocket once over, wishing he could just pour everything out to do the searching, but he still saw no signs of the weapon anywhere on himself in the end. Silvermoon's face ashened as he sat down heavily on the ground. This was definitely a devastating loss to him. Silvermoon was already in a state of ruin, and was someone who was the subject of backbiting no matter where he went. But because he knew just how insanely powerful his King's Blade was, he believed that as long as that weapon was in his possession, there would surely be a team or organization out there that would accept him thanks to the sword. Perhaps they only wished to utilize the weapon itself, but Silvermoon always believed that given his own abilities, as long as he was given a chance to peacefully interact with others, he would have the means to change people's hearts and minds about him. But who would have guessed? The first time he forcefully logged out actually had him losing his King's Blade. Silvermoon would have rather exchange all his equipment, levels, and skills just to get the King's Blade back in his hands, but unfortunately for him, there was no one who would give him such an opportunity. The crowd momentarily had no idea how to react when they saw Silvermoon's unusual action. Just as they were all quiet, someone suddenly bellowed, "What are you pretending to do there? Quick, get out here and die already!" Silvermoon lifted his head, yet he was not looking at anyone in particular. Staring at the lone crystal adornment on top of the trade exchange, the man was looking utterly desolated. The King's Blade was the only spiritual support he had in this game, and it was the only source of all his confidence. Now that it was gone, Silvermoon finally lost any drive to remain resolute. The crowd continued to berate and curse him. Silvermoon had already heard all this plenty of times over, but this time, perhaps he no longer wished to hear any more of it. In a flash of white light, Silver Moon disappeared once again. Everybody was surprised, and someone pulled out his friends list and checked. It's another forceful logout. Just what in the world is that guy doing? Goofy had been silently watching from the side throughout all this, and he had not blindly joined in on the tongue lashing. He had seen Silver Moon change of expression when he first came online, from shock, to fear, then anxiety, before finally despair. Especially since Silver Moon was fumbling with his hands a little when he had stuck it down his dimensional pocket, visibly searching through it. This more or less confirmed Goofy's observation, that he had lost something extremely important to him when he forcefully logged out. For this to have caused such a degree of misery on Silver Moon, Goofy could already guess what he had lost. This time, perhaps this would really be the last time I ever see that man again, Goofy thought to himself. The color on Silver Moon's face had yet to return when he logged out that last time, and that expression of despair he showed lingered. It was unfortunate that Silver Moon only had himself to blame for everything, as it was his step-by-step actions that led him to such an outcome, as there was nothing in this world that happened without reason. It was not that he had no chance, for if he had faced all these people hunting him head-on, he just might have received a different aftermath. But he had placed too much importance on himself, attaching too much value to the king's blade he had in his possession, putting too much weight on the feeling of being a king. In the end, once that feeling was gone, and his sword vanished, he ultimately lost himself as well. The moment he learned he could no longer gain any enjoyment from the game, he had no choice but to drop out of the game as a result. This was the only thing that Goofy sympathized with, that he felt sorry for. He did not really have to drop out, all he had to do was retreat, perhaps retreat back several steps over, but at least he would still be able to play the game, and would still be able to have fun. Goofy sighed. He turned back and saw Vastlushness. She was standing beside him, staring in the direction of the disappeared Silver Moon too. She had seen what Goofy saw as well, and had also shared the same thoughts Goofy had. In the end, all she could do was heave a long sigh as well. Silver Moon, that bastard. Is he coming back or not? Goofy heard someone still rebuking the man from within the crowd. Goofy did not stop them, for this was also an avenue of enjoyment for these people in the game. Except, it was unknown what sort of feelings they would have the moment they realized Silver Moon would not be coming back any longer. Goofy left, and Vastlushness departed as well. Sakurazaka Muni was not really interested in Silver Moon, so when he saw Vastlushness leaving, he hurried along after her. Damu had already added Goofy as a friend, so he expressed his wish to interview and get sound bites from these players who came to hunt down Silver Moon before he arranged for another interview with Goofy at a later date. Walking along, Goofy suddenly recalled something and turned to ask Vastlushness, the Utopian magic staff. Did you know that no one ended up retrieving? No one retrieved it? Do you mean to say that there had been no one picked it up from the distribution NPC? Vastlushness was astonished. Southern Lone Blade and his men were keeping watch the whole time, so that seems to be the case, Goofy said. Someone buying the item yet not wanting it? How strange. Could it be that someone had sneakily retrieved the item without them realizing it? Vastlushness said. That's a possibility, and that's what they are suspecting now too. Goofy said. Oh yes, I saw on the forums that you guys have set up a workshop, and are now working with Southern Lone Blade? Vastlushness asked. That's right, they've turned over a new leaf. Goofy chuckled. That efficient monster grinding routine, how efficient is it really? Vastlushness asked, even as Sakurazaka Muni and his comrades were gazing at Goofy with an eager sparkle in their eyes. This was actually the more major event that was going on in the game right now, hundreds of times more so than No Smile's appearance, and they have been wanting to inquire after Goofy about it. Goofy could only chuckle, slightly rueful. It's a little tough for priests and archers to utilize it. With that, he thought about it from a different perspective and remarked, wait, you're a dark priest, so that might be different. You'll need to use your own damage to fight the monsters, I'd ache? Vastlushness asked. That's right, individual melee damage output. That is why archers would not be able to bring the routine to bear, and because of the issues with proficiency and applicable skills that are weapon dependent, usage of other weapons would result in low damage output, making it really difficult to deal with. Gufei answered. Then aren't we miserable? Our leveling won't be as quick as the other job classes in the future? The whole lot of hunters were exchanging glances with one another. Even though they were no longer specialized in range after their job advancement, their job class characteristic remained unchanged. They were still dependent on their bows for their damage output, so unless they were able to learn some passive mastery skills when they get to higher levels, they were still considered to be archers at the moment. This, with more points toward strength, and another weapon, your efficiency would increase, Gufei said. It's over, man. Looks like all we can do in this game is flirt with girls. A lot of them lamented painfully. It would still be fine if we can flirt around, but after playing the game for so long, I haven't even gotten the chance to hold hands with someone, another moaned. If even a pig like you want to get someone, you're better off dreaming on your own. Someone else quickly denigrated. Gufei could not help but burst into laughter, when he suddenly heard Vast Lushness softly say, if Silvermoon had their mentality, perhaps he wouldn't have such an ending here. Gufei jolted, and saw the truth in her words. These men from Forever in Flowers were utterly reprehensible in every sense, but their attitude toward the game was amazingly positive. Be it losing equipment, levels, or anything of the like, they would obviously complain about what happened, but they would never take it to heart, and would quickly turn around and put their effort into searching for a lady. Actually, what they are looking for were not ladies, but pleasure. While thinking about this, Sakura Sakamuni had slid up right beside Gufei and tugged at his sleeves. Gufei took the hint and slowed down a few steps, and walked in step with a man. Sakura Sakamuni quietly asked, "Drunk bro, do you have any man and woman, couple duo, efficient monster grinding routines?" Scram, no. Gufei was angered. You should consider developing such a duet method, it's sure to be very popular, Sakura Sakamuni said. Gufei was about to castigate the man when he realized Sakura Sakamuni's words had a kernel of truth to it if he were to think about this from a different perspective. There are plenty of couples in the game, so they might not be willing to split up and each take up a grinding spot by themselves. If there was an efficient model for two players to share a monster, it would surely be very well received by such a crowd. As for those who were still single, they could still learn it too. Taking a lady to level was an efficient way to pursue someone, so how would they chase after skirts if they don't know the duet grinding routine? There indeed seemed to be value in developing a duet grinding routine. Your suggestion isn't too bad, Gufei nodded. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sakura Sakamuni wrung his hands in excitement. So drunk bro, you should hurry up and develop such a routine. I'll be the first to register and learn from you once it's out. Seeing how close we are, why is there even a need to register? I'll be sure to teach it to you all for free when the time comes, Gufei said. No. Sakura Sakamuni hurriedly stopped him. Just me alone will do. Ugh, reprehensible. Utterly deplorable. Gufei truly could not stand it. Hee. Sakura Sakamuni laughed dryly before changing the subject. Drunk bro, what are you doing next? Next, Gufei paused. He looked at the time, and then looked at his friends list. Many of his students were still online, and he was incensed. He sent a group message over to the lot. Why are you all still playing? We're logging off. The students each answered, even as they complained with great vigor on their end, entirely different from the attitude they had shown when getting equipment and learning routines from Gufei. In this day and age, even the kids were also practical. Gufei continued to nag on his students, as he asked July, have you located No Smile? Nope, July replied with great remorse. That's a real pity. Gufei was feeling sorry as well. No Smile was a lot more fortunate than Silvermoon today. Do you know someone by the name of Fleeting Smile? Gufei asked out of nowhere. He still could not understand why Fleeting Smile would seek to dupe the two men. The only one who had past grievances with No Smile was July, so Gufei wanted to see if perhaps he was acquainted with July, and if he had decided to help avenge her. I don't know that person, was the answers he got. Then what about that prophetic emperor from the forums? Gufei asked again. I don't know him either. But we did see his post, that's why we came running over. Who is he? Why would he have knowledge of No Smile's tracks? And then there's Silvermoon, why were they together? July queried back. I'm wondering as well. Gufei said. Oh yeah, there's something we've come over for as well, July said. Oh, what is it? Gufei asked. Your efficient monster grinding routine. Let us experience it for ourselves. July requested. Oh, for sure. Once I'm free, Gufei answered. Great. After he replied to July, Vast Lushness had also suddenly blurted out, oh yeah? Bluey's and the others were also interested in registering for your efficient monster grinding routine. Gufei was taken aback. Why were they talking about this again? But before he could even respond to her, a message flashed and Gufei opened it to find Dusky Cloud. Haha, Miles bro. Why didn't you inform your brother here beforehand about something as momentous as you opening a workshop? Oh, it was just an idea that suddenly came to us, Gufei hurriedly replied. The 4,000 strong comrades here are prepared to register for your thing. Dusky Cloud said. Gufei was really shocked now. Another message pinged, and he saw that it was not Dusky Cloud this time, but Yunju on City's Oathless Sword. I say, Miles bro, since your workshop's doing this tutoring thing, why are you doing it at Beishi City? When are you guys coming back to Yunjuan City? Yunjuan City. We'll do our research. We've sent a few of our brother-in-arms over to Beishi City, ready to first learn from you guys. Ever since Oathless Sword had completed his guild quest alongside with Gufei, they had essentially transformed from enemies to friends, and he no longer treated Gufei as an outsider, so he was plain and straightforward with his words. Is that so? How many will that be? 300 men. Miles bro, you guys have yet to make it back ever since you left for the mission, huh? When are you coming back to Yunjuan City? Gufei was nonplussed. Did he not talk about this already? Carefully checking out the name of the sender, he saw that the sender this time was not Oathless Sword, but it was now Brave Surge. In the next moment, Linian City's deep waters came knocking as well. Why are you the only one online? Just what sort of undertaking is this efficient monster grinding routine of yours? When is it beginning? I send a few of my brothers over to check things out. Over from Xiaota City, the sisters Yenziazu and Slaras messaged him too. Efficient monster grinding routine? What's that about? Out of nowhere came drifting, a workshop. You're having quite a fun time, huh? Fool's savior, whom he had not contacted for a long time. Master, what is this efficient monster grinding routine? Is this a kung fu you created by yourself? Teach me. Beside him, Vast Lushness continued to ask, hey, speak already. What's the registration method? July's message, where do we go to wait for you? Dusky Cloud's message, Miles bro, when are you starting? The whole lot of us are about to march on over, ha 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 ha. Oathless Sword's message, is 300 men too little? Shall I send over 500 men? Pretty brotherly of me to support Miles bro's business, huh? Brave Surge's message, Miles bro, are you busy? Is it inconvenient for you to speak? Slaras and Yenziazu as well, hey, why aren't you speak? Are you ignoring us? Drifting's message, what? Have we really became adversaries? Not even gonna reply to my message? Fool's savior, master, how do I get to Beishi City? Quick tell me. Drunk bro. The men from Forever in Flowers had all called out in unison, rushing over to his side. Quick, Drunk bro's about to faint. Being bombarded with messages had really caused Gufei to feel a strong wave of dizziness wash over him. Looking at the time, it was around the time for those late night experts to get online. Sword Demon, RGC, and the others coming online one after another was the best proof of this. I'm about to go insane. Gufei shouted into the mercenary channel. What happened? Everyone was in a panic. To cause Gufei to lose his composure to such a degree, could his park value have broke through 1,000, and that had caused all the city lords from every city to pursue him personally? Everyone I know is trying to ask me about the efficient monster grinding routine thing, Gufei said. The entire channel was silent. What's the matter? Where's everyone? Gufei yelled. In the end, it was only Sword Demon who weakly called out, fuck, it's the same for us too. All of them had their names associated with the workshop as well, and they were all inundated with the endless chime of messages the moment they got online. They had far more friends than Gufei, so everything was collapsing all the more rapidly upon them, and they could not be bothered to care about Gufei any longer. Worse was the fact that there were several who repeatedly sent them messages. Players like Oathless Sword, Dusky Cloud, and Coco, They were all people who knew every member of Young Master's elite, so the moment Gufei did not reply to them within the minute, they instantly sought out Sword Demon, and when Sword Demon could not respond in time, they searched for another member, causing all of them to be instantly overwhelmed. It was the same question, but the answers were all different, causing these people inquiring to be all the more confused, and they became all the more rabid with their questioning. Hee. In the mercenary channel, Young Master Han typed this word out lightly, and everyone felt that wave of disdain that came from him. Was your name not included? Everybody asked in astonishment. How is it possible? Yours truly is your mercenary leader after all, Young Master Han scoffed. Then how did you handle all the replies? Everybody could tell that Young Master Han did not even seem to be in the least bit busy. Dumbasses, just close your messaging and set an automated reply. Young Master Han said. Everyone saw the genius in this method, but when they saw the various questions that were sent their way, none of them could think of a single answer that could give a proper account. What did you set? Royal God Call asked. Ask Brother Assist, Young Master Han said. Ask Brother Assist. But Brother Assist isn't here. Royal God Call flared. Brother Assist had a long night yesterday, and was late to rest up, which was why he had yet to log on. You idiot, the message I set for automated reply is Ask Brother Assist, Young Master Han sneered. Oh! Everyone exclaimed. That's so despicable, everybody commented, even as they each set their own automated reply to Ask Brother Assist. Chapter 616, Making Money Isn't Easy. The 5 men online from Young Master's Elite, were currently busy setting Ask Brother Assist as their automated response to messages sent their way. None of them had any idea what sort of reaction players would have when they faced the automated message, since all they cared about right now was that their ears finally had some peace and quiet. Messaging might have been turned off, but the people around him were still around. Vast Lushness was helping Bluey's and his men to register, which was not a big deal, and Gufei was originally about to casually agree when he stopped himself involuntarily the moment he thought about that mass of messages he had just received. When Dusky Cloud and his comrades arrive, what sort of scene would unfold if they ran into Bluey's and his men? Gufei had no intention of messing around with such personal grievances, so he decided to relay the matter to Vast Lushness. She froze up for a good moment in response. They're coming to learn too? Then it seems like we won't have a need to learn anything either. Oh? Gufei was surprised and found that to be incongruent with Vast Lushness's personality. She was not a woman who would back down just because the 10 Guild Alliance was tyrannically strong. If the 10 Guild Alliance end up coming for lessons, then I'm afraid they would occupy the entire grinding map. No one else would have any chance to fight the monsters even if they picked up the routine as well, Vast Lushness explained. However, a new thought came to Vast Lushness the moment she finished speaking. I don't think the 10 Guild Alliance is the only guild out there that have such plans, right? Gufei nodded in agreement when he thought of how Oathless Sword, Brave Surge, and even Deep Waters had reached out to him, and these were just players who he was able to speak with directly. In that case, everybody would be fighting for the grinding map when that time comes. Who knows what sort of scene we will witness? Vast Lushness mused. If you're a guild leader, what would your decision be? Gufei asked. That would depend on the way of thinking your workshop adopts. Are you going to develop the grinding maps piece by piece? Currently, you've only opened up 2 maps. It's far too much in short supply. Directly competing with everyone would not be wise at all, so if I was in their shoes, I would privately contact the workshop and pay out a high price to hire you guys to privately tutor us for a grinding map of our choosing. However, that doesn't seem right either. There's no way to seal off a grinding map, so other players would naturally secretly watch when they begin their grind, so even if you guys aren't teaching it, players would still be able to directly learn it while the guild members in question grinded. Ah, this is such a troublesome matter. Vast Lushness was knitting her eyebrows just thinking about the matter. With the current situation, learning is one thing, but it's another matter entirely whether people have the opportunity to use it. Yes, what you said makes sense, Gufei nodded. He could tell such a scenario was very likely as well, but he had not worried about it. To put it bluntly, it was an issue of kill stealing, and it was an issue of contention that had existed in MMOs since time immemorial. As for how it was handled, Gufei believed the players themselves were far more experienced than he was. There was sure to be a path once the car reaches the mountains. It's better if I try and convince Bluey's and his people not to learn it first, Vast Lushness finally said. Yeah. Gufei had no opinion either way. Once Vast Lushness and the others departed, and his students were all offline, Gufei ultimately decided to log off and rest since there were no lessons he had to prep for the moment. Meanwhile, the impact that the efficient monster grinding routine had brought was still a hot topic for all. Players came streaming in from various cities near and far from Beishi City. Nearby regions like Linian City and Y City only needed 2 to 3 hours of travel, while cities further away were essentially double that time. As such, 2 to 3 hours became the periodical cycle as players kept gathering at Beishi City from elsewhere, and the wilderness camp no longer looked anything like a grinding map, utterly filled with players that not a single monster could be found with a glance. How would anyone be able to continue their leveling grind like this? Everybody was no longer contending over monsters, inquiring about the matter with the efficient monster grinding routine, and there were even players who took advantage of the crowd present and set up their stalls to conduct business and the like. The situation was just the same over by White Mill. Even though the lessons had yet to begin, there was already a huge amount of players hanging around, eager to watch the spectacle. The two grinding maps were thus unceremoniously crowded like there was a gathering, the commotion unparalleled. It was evident that these past 2 days had been exceptionally exhausting for Brother Assist. He had taken an extra long rest today, and the sun was nearly setting by the time he got up. Quickly, the man got up and crawled toward his computer. He was not in a hurry to get into the game but was first going to take a look at the post he made. The thread he started had long since reached the maximum post capacity, and the various major online forums reposts he made were equally enthusiastically received. Brother Assist was over the moon seeing this, and he hardly cared to peruse the private messages his forum's friends sent inquiring after the matter. He could hardly wait as he logged onto the game, wanting to share the good news with his fellow mercenaries. In the end, the moment he came online, he was buried under the landslide of notifications the system had sent before he could even get his bearings straight after spawning in. Even though Brother Assist had made mental preparations for something like this to happen, he was nevertheless a little overwhelmed to the point he was at a loss at what to do. It had been 5 whole minutes since he logged on, but the message notification from the system continued to ring repeatedly. These people had been held back by the 5 others' automated response to ask Brother Assist for the whole day, so the moment they saw Brother Assist appear online, every one of them had pounced upon the man like he was prey, their jaws clamping down upon him tightly, sending messages after messages with less than 10 seconds in between the moment they saw there was no reply to their previous message. Brother Assist scrambled to answer each and every one of them, even as he reported to the people on the mercenary channel, "Man, it's looking great out here. The people are really passionate about this." "Yes, very passionate," the other 4 men agreed. "How about you guys? How many have registered on your end?" Brother Assist asked. "Isn't registration Miles' responsibility?" Young Master Han lightly commented. "Oh, that's right. Why isn't he online?" Brother Assist could hardly contain himself and was eager to tabulate everything up. Speaking of the devil, Gufei had just finished his dinner and gotten online at this time. Brother Assist instantly sent a message his way. "You're here. How many people registered?" "Ask Brother Assist." "What are you asking me for?" "How would I know?" Brother Assist wondered. "Ask Brother Assist." Brother Assist very quickly understood what was going on, and he was demoralized when he quickly realized why messages were bombarding him endlessly. But what could he say to this? All he could do was sigh at the role of an odd jobber he had been assigned fault with, sending a message over the mercenary channel in exasperation. "Miles, turn off your automated reply." Gufei was still in a state of shock. Ever since this morning, when Brother Assist had made his posts about the workshop, mail had been constantly sent at him this whole while, barely taking notice of what was happening in the beginning. Ever since he had become a person of renown in the game, he would receive plenty of mail every day. While he had conscientiously replied to them at the start, there was still a limit to the patience Gufei had, especially since the content of most of these letters were about the same. It got to the point where Gufei finally began to ignore them, only taking the time to clear out his mail whenever he passed by the city gates without taking a glance at them altogether. But this time when he got online, the system notified him that he had already gotten 21,231 letters in his mailbox. Thus, when Goofy saw Brother Assist calling for him to turn off his automated message over the mercenary channel, he did not care to be embarrassed as he immediately announced, "This is insane. I have 21,231 letters in my mailbox." Wait, no, it's now 21,233. In the time he typed the message out, 2 more letters had found their way into his mailbox. That's awesome. Royal Godcall was the first to congratulate. "Wounds, come on over and help me retrieve them all. Bring plenty of burlap sacks." Goofy called out to War Without Wounds, as this would clearly be a physically demanding task. This was a fully immersive MMO after all. Everything had weight to it. Which mailbox? It was rare for War Without Wounds to be so earnest. "Whichever you're the closest to." Goofy considered War Without Wounds' baby legs and made such a decision. "Alright, I'll see you by the north gate," War Without Wounds said. "Got it." Goofy answered as he turned off his automated reply. At the same time, he saw the chat logs during this period when he had it up, and the most memorable interaction was from Eternal Dominion. "How's everything going? Ask Brother Assist." "But Brother Assist isn't online." "Ask Brother Assist." "How am I supposed to ask him if he isn't online?" "Ask Brother Assist." "Is he appearing offline?" "Ask Brother Assist." "I did ask him, but he hasn't replied." "He's offline, right?" "Ask Brother Assist." "How am I supposed to ask him if he isn't online?" "Ask Brother Assist." "Fuck, is this an automated message?" "Ask Brother Assist." "Brother Assist isn't even online, what's the point of designating this automated message?" "Ask Brother Assist." Even though Eternal Dominion was interacting with an automated reply, the man continued to interact with Goofy 8 separate times, which only showed that the patience of martial practitioners is on an entirely different level. Looking at the time when these messages were sent, it was just a little before Goofy had logged off, which was likely when Eternal Dominion had just gotten online, and he was no longer online at the moment. Conversely, Oathless Sword and the others no longer sent any messages after they got rebuffed with the Ask Brother Assist thrice, each leaving their own sarcastic repudiations to the automated message Goofy set. Goofy made his way over to the mailbox found by the north gate, even as the number of letters increased with every step he took. Royal Godcall was excitedly calculating how much 21,233 multiplied by 99 was in the mercenary channel, and everyone could feel a sense of asphyxia when they realized the sum broke into the 7 digits. Southern Lone Blade and his men were all already online by this point, and being the responsible workers that they were, had spent the whole of last night familiarizing themselves with the respective efficient monster grinding routines Goofy had taught them. All that was left was for them to wait until they could show off what they had mastered. They were all privy to what had happened throughout the day as well, and Southern Lone Blade had to field quite a few questions of his own. Though he was not so inconsiderate as to get them to ask Brother Assist, he was nevertheless uncertain what was the unanimous answer to give to everyone, so all he did was tell them everything would be fine as long as they did as the post had stated. When he saw Goofy come online, Southern Lone Blade had also came to ask him about the latest updates, and Goofy swiftly got him to help him with the menial labor. Over 20,000 letters. No matter how much strength War Without Wounds had, there was no burlap sack that huge to contain them all. Southern Lone Blade was not going to dawdle when it came time to work, so he led all 6 of his brothers over to meet up with Goofy and War Without Wounds, and all 9 of them hauled off all 20,000 plus letters all in one go. The moment they left, the mailbox began accumulating the letters once more. "It's too quick. I originally thought it would take 3 to 4 days, but by the looks of it, we would reach the numbers we need in a single day." Sword Demon and the others were currently gathered in an empty room in Beishi City, for it was too inconvenient for all of them to do anything in a place like a tavern, where plenty of eyes are around. Using the profits from the wilderness camp they had earned yesterday, young Master Han had purchased a property in Beishi City and was using it as an office place for their workshop. Most workshops would hang up their own signboards openly, afraid that others would not recognize them, But Gufei's workshop did not dare to do the same. With the current level of commotion their workshop was causing, they would most likely end up congesting the entire street if they were to really hang out their signboard for all to see. Gufei's group of 9 transported the sacks of letters all the way to their office, scattering the entire heap of letters directly on the ground as he wiped his sweat. In the time it took for me to carry all these over here, another 1,000 or so letters were sent to my mailbox. These experts who were quick to adapt to such momentous occurrences were already no longer reacting to something like 1,000 or so. With a casual nod, young Master Han had already begun to assign tasks to the people present. Miles, take some men with you to collect the money from the letters. Brother Assist, bring another bunch to sort out the timing and collate the information. Young Master Han did not directly assign manpower to them, but Southern Lone Blade was quick to catch on, pointing out 3 of his men to help Gufei count the coins they collected, while Royal God Call and War Without Wounds had enthusiastically jumped to their feet as well. They were also willing to have intimate contact with the gold coins. With over 20,000 letters, not every one of them had gold coins enclosed. Removing the several hundreds of private letters that Gufei had not recently found time to clear out, half of what remained was actually just letters of inquiries. Nevertheless, since Gufei and everyone currently have an absolute monopoly of the market, and adding to the fact that young Master Han was the one running the show, there would be no need for any good service on their part, and they directly tossed out those letters which were beating around the bush, asking all sorts of questions. However, there was a portion of the letters that were from guild leaders, with the intention of doing a bulk purchase of their tutelage, which was the reason why they had sent a letter to privately negotiate the price. There were even some who immediately thought of directly booking a private session like what Vast Lushness had envisioned before, so all these letters were temporarily set aside for now. In addition, the mound of coin pouches continued to amass in the corner of the room. Players did not have to prepare coin pouches in Parallel World, and it would automatically materialize when coins were being exchanged. Depending on the number of coins within, the coin pouches would change in color accordingly. At the moment, the red pouches contain the highest amount possible, capping out at 10,000. The main job for Gufei, Royal God Call, and the others were to fit the coins in each of the pouches into one. Meanwhile, all the letters that contained these gold coins were handed to Brother Assist and the others, and enclosed in each of the letters were of course the information that Brother Assist had requested on the forums, including things like their job class, weapon, and stats. Furthermore, this time Gufei had developed a far more comprehensive distinction. The classification was no longer as simple as just long and short weapon, fast or slow, but was instead split into different routines for each of the different job classes. Thanks to the tireless work of the people inside the room, the more than 20,000 letters were finally all opened and read. Out of everything, 10,231 letters had gold coins enclosed in them, but the total amount came out to be 1,012,457 gold coins, and it was several hundreds coins less compared to how much they theoretically should have. As there was no need to account for their income to anyone, nor did they have to be taxed or record their earnings, the whole lot of them decided to directly waive that several hundred gold discrepancy. After they were done with all this, over 8 hours had already passed, and Eternal Dominion had also came along halfway through to help out. Young Master Han finally could no longer be shameless, and stood by the side and participated by pointing things out. Meanwhile, Gufei had reported that in the 8 hours or so that passed, his mailbox had received another 21,457 letters, and everybody shared the same sensation of wanting to die when they heard that. Sword Demon and the others had already expressed they had no desire to spend too much time on this from the start, and would rather hire external aid and would not mind giving them a portion of their profits so as to avoid all this. But by the looks of things, even if they had Southern Lone Blade and his team with them, they still had a huge manpower problem. Dealing with another 20,000 letters would mean they would all be busy till noon of the next day. By the time everyone slept and woke up again, there just might be another 20,000 letters out there waiting for them. Sword Demon and the others might not have to step in when it came to the tutoring of the routines, but according to the pace of young Master Han's arrangement, that would already be the time for them to announce the next area they would be focusing, and that meant another round of collecting letters, counting coins, and collating information. Even though Southern Lone Blade and his team had foreseen such a future as well, and realized how tiring it would be, they at least did not share the resistance that Sword Demon and the others felt. After all, both parties approached this from a different perspective. To the 7 men, earning money was their goal, while Sword Demon and the other mercenaries saw their profits to be nothing more than a means to their final goal. They could definitely not stand expending all their time and effort on this. Are we going to retrieve the letters? Southern Lone Blade wiped his sweat even as he asked Gouffé. Gouffé was also more than a little reluctant. Even though he was seeing this from a different perspective, he shared a similar sentiment with Sword Demon and the others and felt that this matter had essentially taken too much of his time. Thus, the people inside this room exchanged glances with each other, and no one actually answered Southern Lone Blade's question. "What's the matter?" Southern Lone Blade asked. At the moment, he simply could not tell what these people were feeling about this situation. "If we do it like this, we won't have any time to level." Sword Demon expressed his thoughts openly on behalf of the others. Southern Lone Blade paused. He obviously understood what these people were thinking, and to put it bluntly, everybody's philosophy to the game was fundamentally different. They were all reluctantly on the same page for this business, and a division was already starting to show. Southern Lone Blade and the others were obviously hoping to earn as much as they could from this venture, while Sword Demon and his gang would most likely back out after they earned enough from this. "It's already past 3. It'll probably time for us to sleep. If we were to do another 20,000 letters, then we would have accomplished nothing today." War Without Wounds was frowning as well. He was happy counting money, but being made count coins endlessly was not the reason he was playing this game. Southern Lone Blade was a little discontented. Early on when he first joined in, he had never thought this was the thinking these people had. From the looks of things, it seemed like these men merely wished to be in charge of everything, and was hardly interested in the work. All they cared for was to get a share of the profits. If Gouffé and Eternal Dominion were the same as well, Southern Lone Blade would have nothing to say. After all, they were the ones who came up with the efficient monster grinding routines and had already provided the most important contribution to this whole venture. However, just what right did these people have to bum around? Just from the fact that they were friends with Thousand Miles Drunk? Southern Lone Blade laughed bitterly. He would truly have no options if that were the case. He had already realized the relationship between the people involved here, and even though young Master Han was the one giving the commands in this mercenary group, it was apparent that the real boss could only be Thousand Miles Drunk and Eternal Dominion. Why was that? Because the two of them were the source of production for the efficient monster grinding routines. Everything was in the hands of those two martial practitioners, so as long as the two had no opinions about how to run things, Southern Lone Blade could only stare as those men would loaf around doing nothing and still get a cut of the profits. After deeply realizing how he and his friends were being exploited for his manpower here, Southern Lone Blade had nothing to say about it either. All he could do was bemoan his fate, that he did not become friends with Thousand Miles Drunk sooner. "How many people are we looking to take in for White Mill?" Gouffé asked. "If they are using the efficient monster grinding routine, that place should at most contain 3,000 players grinding their levels at the same time," Brother Assist said. "Oh, 15,000 people? Then we've more or less gotten the numbers now." Gouffé recalled that young Master Han had mentioned that taking 5 times the total would do. However, Brother Assist was shaking his head. 3,000 players is referring to the time when it is fully saturated, number of players wise, and that's a calculation based off the space we have in the map. But we need to account for the time it takes to reach this level of complete saturation. Considering it is a daily cycle, I feel White Mill should be able to fulfill the leveling requirements for 10,000 players, but after considering the enthusiasm after getting a grasp of the efficient monster grinding routine, we will have to adjust this number. I think 6 to 8,000 would do. So that's 30 to 50,000 people? Gouffé turned to regard young Master Han. Young Master Han had instead asked a question in return: "What's the situation with regard to the teaching grounds over by White Mill?" "The place has better conditions than the wilderness camp. Because of the existence of the mill's structures in the map, we can use its roof as the place to conduct our lessons, and for the players to have a clear enough view of it, I reckon we would be able to take 1,000 players in one go, no problem. If we have 10 people each occupying the mill and teaching, that would be at least 10,000 players, so we could theoretically finish everything in 3 to 5 rounds. The dedicated Southern Lone Blade had already done his due consideration towards this problem beforehand. Footnotes: CH 616 Footnote 1, a Chinese idiom that means there's sure to be a solution in the face of difficulties. Chapter 617, Tormenting People to Death. In that case, has anyone taken a look at the situation over by the White Mill today? Young Master Han asked. I did. The person speaking was still Southern Lone Blade. Due to the announcement made on various sites online, the White Mill had already turned into a very popular grinding spot, especially the many players who are from other distant cities who had no wish to come here for nothing, and they are all loitering about that place, hoping to watch us teach the efficient monster grinding routine. Honestly speaking, these people would cause quite a lot of inconvenience for our organization of lessons. It'll be quite a problem for us if we wish to protect the interests of those who had paid for our lesson. Sword Demon and the others could not help but feel immense guilt right now. The professionalism and dedication Southern Lone Blade was demonstrating had truly left them speechless, and he had not even uttered a word of complaint while he sorted through all the letters for the 8 hours with everyone. Even as professional gamers who treated this as part of their job, that nevertheless made them an absolutely good employee. Thinking about their own casual and lackadaisical mentality toward this business, the 3 men exchanged looks with each other, none of them finding the right words to say either. Sword Demon had always been a straightforward person, so he had no wish to dawdle and keep being entangled like this, so he spoke up, I wish to say a few words. What? Everyone turned to regard the thief. Seeing as how much more time we would expectedly be spending to deal with this, I personally do not wish to waste too much of my time and effort in the game solely on making money, so I was thinking. Once this batch is done, I'll resign, Sword Demon said. Everyone was stunned. The huge amount of profits this business venture would rake it was already been practically proven, yet Sword Demon was willing to let all that slip away. War Without Wounds and Royal God Call looked at each other for a moment and suddenly nodded in unison. We were thinking just the same as well. These two's prurience and love for money usually made them act rather immorally, but when it came to the general understanding of trade-offs, these men were clear as to what they valued more. At the moment, neither of them hesitated much when following Sword Demon in making this choice. It was now Southern Lone Blade's turn to feel a little guilty. He had thought these men were thick-skinned enough to bank on their relationship with Gufei to mooch off the business, but it turned out that these veteran experts actually had their pride and were independent enough, so none of them would do something like being completely reliant on others like what he had presumed. But the workshop's established with all your names on it. Without you guys. Brother Assist was a little worried. There were players out there who were like groupies. What would they do if there were fans of Sword Demon that came, or someone who was a fan of Royal God Call requested an autograph from their idol? We just don't wish to waste too much time dealing with the business, but we are still a member of the workshop. If there's anything you need help with, holler and we'll be right there, Sword Demon said. Yes, absolutely, Royal God Call agreed. But using our names, would that not mean we should get a little from usage rights? War Without Wounds wondered out loud. That makes sense, Royal God Call agreed once more. Everyone had treated War Without Wounds' suggestion as a joke and moved on from it. As for the decision these 3 made, aside from Brother Assist's skepticism, Flame Singed Clothes had also bluntly expressed his dissatisfaction. Didn't we all agree to cooperate on this? It's barely been a few days, and you guys already want to back out, all of you. Flame Singed Clothes wanted to say that the 3 of them lacked trustworthiness and were being fickle, but Southern Lone Blade had reached out to wrench him back down, so Flame Singed Clothes quickly shut his mouth. Sword Demon had already expected such a response, which was why he looked rather embarrassed when he first mentioned he would be resigning. Flame Singed Clothes pointing it out so plainly for everyone right now only made it all the more awkward for him. War Without Wounds and Royal God Call were not as thin-faced as Sword Demon, so they immediately retorted, haven't we previously mentioned we don't wish to spend too much time on this? We're backing out now so that we don't become an encumbrance for everyone. I understand all your kind intentions, Southern Lone Blade nodded. None of my men and I have any opinions as to the decisions you make, so whatever you decide goes. Southern Lone Blade was making it obvious he had no wish to get involved in this issue. When Flame Cinched Clothes heard what he said, the man naturally had nothing to add as well, quietly backing off to a corner to show this. Neither War Without Wounds nor Royal God Call sought to pursue the matter upon given the advantage. Everyone exchanged glances with one another at that moment, with no one saying a word. Finally, everybody's eyes swiveled to Gufei, letting the man make the decision for this matter. Gufei did not disappoint everyone as he spoke. The way I see it, the few of you will be considered as temps. Temps? They were all astonished. Yup, like take this batch for example, everyone had worked together to get things done. For the next batch, you don't have to participate if none of you wish to. Whenever you've got the need, come in and help out when the time comes. Hey, that's a great idea. War Without Wounds and Royal God Call immediately began applauding to show their support. However, Sword Demon had the slightest bit of hesitation. How would he not understand what Gufei was implying? To put it bluntly, the business would be sustained by the efforts of Gufei, Southern Lone Blade and the others, while Sword Demon, Royal God Call and War Without Wounds would be esteemed bigwigs who would come help out and earn a little allowance whenever they had the time, ignoring their entire existence when they were busy. Sword Demon was momentarily conflicted as he felt he did not have the qualifications to act like such a big shot, considering what help he could provide in this business. Alright, so it's decided. Gufei ended this discussion and looked at Southern Lone Blade and the others again. Having already realized his role as the exploited worker, Southern Lone Blade had already expressed he had no opinion no matter the final decision. Besides, this was not a particularly bad decision as well. The profits would at least be split with accordance to merit, at the very least, so he expressed his support for this decision as well when prompted. Great, no one has any issues to this, Gufei gladly nodded, before adding, in the future, I'll become a temp as well. Fuck. Everyone disparaged. And to think they had all thought he was being so brotherly when he made such an arrangement for Sword Demon and the others. Now, it seemed like he was merely paving a path out of this business for himself. Since that's the case, we should hurry up and continue our work here. Now that everything was decided, everyone no longer dawdled. Sword Demon and the others requested for all the other letters to be collected, and so they were all mobilized, making their way to the mailbox. Is there no capacity limit to the mailbox? Gufei asked Brother Assist along the way, remembering that there was a time when his mailbox was stuffed filled with 1,000 letters, yet it had no problem taking in 20,000s after 20,000s of letters now. Now that there are more and more players in Parallel World, and with increased traveling between the cities, the cap had been removed to make it more convenient for everyone to keep in contact. However, the mailbox would automatically delete the letters routinely, so it's best to avoid leaving them there for too long, otherwise any rare items that happen to be enclosed in the letters would be deleted along with it. Brother Assist reminded. It was at this time when Southern Lone Blade suggested, there are so many players all gathered by the White Mill now, and this situation might keep happening for our future batches as well. I suggest we don't get so many players enrolled first. Let's first handle 20,000, and see what happens from there, so we can mentally forge a baseline on what to expect in the future. The members of Young Master's Elite turned to Young Master Han. As was the man's habit, he was sure to be disparaging Southern Lone Blade's idea, before offering a far more optimized plan to leave the disparaged dumbfounded of his brilliance. Sure enough, Young Master Han glanced over to Southern Lone Blade and said, I already have a good idea what sort of situation would unfold from this. The enrollment plan will continue unchanged. The goal is 40,000 players. At the current rate we are going, we would need approximately 8 hours to get through roughly 20,000 letters. Only half of these letters would have the fees enclosed, which means we enroll around 10,000 players every hour. Considering the number of letters already in the mailbox now, we still have another 16 hours. Gufei said. After we finish organizing that last amount of letters 16 hours later, we'll still need another 8 hours. Comrades, we've still got 24 hours of work before we can rest up, Brother Assist added on. Your math is wrong, Young Master Han lightly commented. There would still be 40,000 letters we need to go through after those 24 hours, Young Master Han said. Everyone was vomiting blood, As Royal Godcall clutched onto Goofy's hand, his face in tears. Is it still possible to call it quits right now? Goofy was equally pale as well, gazing at the drained expressions they were all sharing. Actually, we're not really in any sort of rush, are we? Let's deal with these 20,000 letters first before we discuss this further. Everybody sighed, listlessly opening up the mailbox and helped Goofy retrieve the letters within. Their action drew quite a lot of attention from passers-by, who were all giving them sideways glances as Goofy and the others stuffed all the letters into separate sacks. All of them were deeply aware of just how precious their time was, so they hurried back to the office and began to work mechanically. However, it was unknown if the previous 8 hours had trained them, as everyone became all the more efficient with the tasks. This time, it only took them about 6 hours to sort through the 20,000 letters, reaching a total of 11,428 prospective students from this stack of letters, collecting 1,113,057 gold coins as a result. There was discrepancy once more, but no one was bothered by it. It's 10 a.m. now, Brother Assist announced, his exhaustion apparent from how he dragged out his words. Even night owls like Sword Demon and the others were barely holding on themselves. While they would often game for long hours, they would rarely spend all their time doing just one thing, especially something as dull as this. There's another 11,102 letters in my mailbox now. Seems to be less than what we had expected from our previous example, Goofy mused. That's not strange. It's the later part of the night, so there's a lot less players online, Brother Assist said. Let's all log off and have a rest. We'll continue our work when we get online later. Brother Assist, before you come online after you're done with your rest, announce we're done accepting applications for the efficient monster grinding routine on the forums, young Master Han said. After my rest, there wouldn't be enough for 40,000 players by then. Brother Assist said. There's no way it would be so exact. I reckon we'll still have more or less the numbers we want, so let's just do it like this. Young Master Han said. Brother Assist nodded, no objections on his end. Let's all synchronize our time for this. We'll meet in 10 hours, everyone good with that? Young Master Han asked. The other 13 players nodded, leaving the office together, hurrying over to the designated log-off points like they were all getting off work. 10 hours later, everybody was back online at the stipulated time, and Brother Assist had already corrected all the posts he had made to announce the end of enrollment for this round. They had all gathered by the mailbox when they logged on, and the first thing they did was get Goofy to seal his mailbox, temporarily refusing to receive any new letters from other players. 37,654 letters, Goofy announced in the end. What did I tell you? Young Master Han said to Brother Assist. Going by the expectation of how 50% of these letters would be duds, that would still be about 18,000 potential students, and adding that to the over 20,000 players that they had already confirmed from the letters before, they would have more than 40,000 players they aimed to achieve. The nearly 40,000 letters were only cleared after 2 trips, even with everyone helping out. A bunch of them began sorting through all the letters once that was done, while the others were sent out to purchase the necessary materials for the replies. Every single one of them could not help but shudder when they thought about how there were over 40,000 letters to reply to and confirm the details for the lessons. Everyone's task efficiency broke new heights once more, completing all 37,654 letters in about 10 hours. Finally, the tutelage of the White Mill's efficient monster grinding routines came up to a total tally of 41,526 players, and what should have been 4,111,074 gold coins ended up being 4,108,954 gold coins in actuality. The discrepancy of 2,120 gold coins would definitely have been a sum that made people grind their teeth, but when this amount was juxtaposed with their total earnings, none of them were about to fuss over the difference, and none of them really cared to look into the reason as to how this discrepancy happened either. Let's begin to compose our reply. Brother Assist's expression was somber. Everyone's eyes were upon the completed burlap sacks that were neatly stacked high in the room. Brother Assist stood up and began handing out quills to everyone. I've already done the calculations, with 41,526 letters, and just 14 of us, that would average out to be 2,966 letters per person. I suggest we make this a competition. The first to finish their stock of letters will be rewarded 100,000 gold coins. What do all of you think? Brother Assist was acting ostentatiously as well, so casually mentioning a sum like 100,000 gold coins. But how could he not? There were over 400 bags of red 10,000 gold coins bags piled up in the other corner of the room. Agreed. Southern Lone Blade and the other professional gamers all raised their fists in solidarity. Goofy raised his hand. Can I immediately forfeit? No. Everyone shouted back, angrily. Right now, every sack contained the same amount of letters, 1,000. I'll take out 34 from this one, and then adding 2 full sacks will bring the total up to 2,966 letters. Royal, these are for you. Brother Assist began distributing the sacks in this fashion, with all 14 players in the room each getting 3 burlap sacks each, making it somewhat crowded for the moment. Everyone should prepare an empty sack and place the completed replies inside. Each of you can deal with the old letters however you want. Everyone, please be extra careful. If the number of replies does not tally, I'm sure all of you can imagine just how extremely daunting it would be to go over everything again, Brother Assist said. The crowd closed their eyes and mentally visualized it, instantly breaking into a cold sweat, with each of them acknowledging the importance of being detailed with this task. Very good. Now that we all have the 2,966 letters in our hands, totaling up to 41,524 letters, here are the 2 letters remaining. Brother Assist waved his hand holding the 2 letters before casually fitting it into his dimensional pocket. There's something else I need to tell you guys, so listen carefully. Brother Assist gazed at everyone present. In order to prevent too many of these people from gathering and making it inconvenient for us to supervise, we'll be teaching them in separate sets. Each set will have 10,000 players, and we will begin on the 3rd of March, from 4 in the morning, and then 5, 6, and 7 a.m. respectively. Every hour will be a slot, and we'll finish this in 4 sets. So everyone's reply is gonna be slightly different from each other's. Sword Demon, Royal, and Wounds will all write the following. On the 3rd of March, gather by Beishi City's East Gate, 400 meters away to the south, at 4 in the morning. We will not be waiting for latecomers. Brother Assist said. Young Master, Miles, and a minion, you 3 will write. On the 3rd of March, gather by Beishi City's East Gate, 400 meters away to the south, at 5 in the morning. We will not be waiting for latecomers. Using that format, Blackwater, Glue, and Flame Cinched Clothes will be taking the slot for 6 in the morning, and Patty Scented Pastures, Unrivaled Lucky Star, and Verdant Timber will take 7 in the morning. Finally, Big South will be with me, and we'll have a total of 6 sacks of letters. This will be split into 4 time slots, giving us 1.5 sacks for each time slot. I'll do 4 and 5 a.m., you will write 6 and 7 a.m. respectively. We don't have to be too exact with our numbers, as long as it's more or less half a sack will do. Southern Lone Blade nodded in acknowledgement. Everyone understand? Do I need to repeat myself? Brother Assist asked. Enough nagging, everyone derided. In that case, let's begin. At Brother Assist's command, the big letter replying competition started, as Brother Assist hurriedly began to start furiously writing out the reply from the spot he was standing. Nobody spoke in the entire office, and only the sound of the scratching quills and the flipping of paper could be heard. Everyone had chosen the method of tossing all the letters that they had finished replying on the ground, and Brother Assist had the fright of his life when he saw how casually that person next to him had thrown these letters. He could not help but yelp out loudly, "Everyone, please take note of where you're tossing these letters. Please take care not to toss it into the sacks of someone's completed or even the uncompleted sacks. Ugh, you're such a nag. Do you think we don't know that already?" All he got was a strong round of derision once more. Time slipped by, and everyone continued to write their replies as they took note of the number at the same time. Slowly, the look of horror came over each and every one of them. This was not a complicated math problem, but the first one to reach this realization was Southern Lone Blade. Every letter he wrote took about 20 seconds, and 3,000 letters meant 60,000 seconds, provided he neglect the fact he might slow down or dawdle. Dividing that by 3,600 would result in 16.666 recurring hours. The second person who did a similar calculation was Royal God Call. The man spent 30 seconds on each of his replies, and using the same rough estimation, the answer he got was 25 hours. His face went ghastly pale. The third and the fourth. When everybody each finished their mathematical calculation and discovered the minimum amount of time they would take to reply to the letters they had been assigned to, everyone was enraged. They had once more found themselves underestimating the amount of work they would be doing for this venture. Taking into account everything they had to do to earn all the gold coins, everyone had made the mistake of sorely misjudging the momentousness of the task ever since they decided to start up this business. Fuck me. I'm gonna take 33 hours to finish writing all these replies. This will be the death of me. The first person to bellow out their frustration was War Without Wounds. Everyone was startled by this outburst since that meant War Without Wounds would take about 40 seconds per reply going by the estimation they had done before. It was really slow, and everybody mocked the man accordingly, which thus began the conversation between one another, asking, "How many seconds does it take for you to write out a reply?" There was no need to discuss if adding points toward agility would affect this particular task, as it was apparent the real determining factor was the habit of writing in the individual. The warrior Southern Lone Blade was 10 seconds faster than Royal God Call, while Gufei, someone who had both the advantages in game agility and the dexterity of Kung Fu, was entirely unable to demonstrate any sort of superiority in this. Furthermore, his speed of writing was extremely unstable, wavering around 25 seconds per letter. The speed of Eternal Dominion's writing was stable, but his attitude toward the matter was very proper. In fear of the recipient having no idea what was going on, the man did not care for speed but sought to ensure his words were neatly written. Each of his replies took 45 seconds to craft, making him a whole 5 seconds slower than the already slow War Without Wounds. On top of that, young Master Han was the exact opposite of Ed. Forget about his chicken scratch scribbles. The man was so shameless that he ignored the template he had been given. After all his evolution and condensation of the statement, the final form became 3/3. 5 a.m. East Gate face south 400 meters. Promptly, the whole lot of them howled in admonishment at his shamelessness, but quickly adopted young Master Han's shorthand format. Brother Assist's persuasion fell on deaf ears, so he could only follow the majority and went along with the new standard. Thus, the speed of their replies increased tremendously. Southern Lone Blade, who originally needed 20 seconds to complete a reply, shaved the time down to 10 seconds, essentially having the time he needed to work on everything. The man was thrilled now that the hope of completing his work in 8 hours was in sight, and was feeling really confident about winning that 100,000 gold coin reward. After several hours of intense competition, Southern Lone Blade was now at the bottom of his third sack and victory was right before him. Suddenly, a flurry of activity caught his eye, as he saw Brother Assist getting up with a bright smile. The 3 sacks of letters completed by his feet, raising his right hand with a victory sign. "You're done?" Southern Lone Blade was astonished. 8 hours, 6 minutes, and 47 seconds. Brother Assist declared. "That's Brother Assist, alright." Everybody sighed in awe. It could be seen just how practice makes perfect here, and that all the note recording Brother Assist did was not for naught. Just a little bit. Southern Lone Blade was dejected. Had he discovered young Master Han's shameless shorthand format earlier, he might not have lost this competition. "Don't worry, you'll still have your chances in the future," Brother Assist winked with a smile, causing everyone to feel a cold breeze course over them. The man was right. "This task will come up again," repeatedly. "Aw fuck, just kill me already." War Without Wounds bold. After using the shorthand version, War Without Wounds' slow writing speed had only shaved off a dozen of seconds at most, and he still had to work at this for a bit over 20 hours. Chapter 618, Dom Umadu's article. Under everyone's gaze, Brother Assist calmly walked over to the corner of the room and picked out 10 bags of the red 10,000 gold coin pouches, which totaled up to 100,000 gold, as everyone salivated at the prospect. And with that, Southern Lone Blade, young Master Han, Sword Demon, and Blackwater were the next to complete their own tasks they were allocated respectively. Originally, These men had thought they would be done with this after they finished their own lot, yet everyone was ultimately not heartless enough to turn a blind eye to the deathly look War Without Wounds was showing as he slowly got through his pile of letters, so they all pitched in to help the man out. Many hands make light work, thus all the replies were completed after another 3 hours of hard work. When the last quill was laid down, everyone was already collapsed on the floor, each looking absolutely hideous, grinding their teeth as they cursed this task. The printing press was truly a noble invention. Everybody heard War Without Wounds make that comment out loud. Alright, now that everything is done, let's all gather the letters and prepare to send them all out, Brother Assist yelled. It was apparent that the frequency of doing this particular labor gave them all plenty of experience, and all sorts of tricks and methods appeared at this time. Take the strong War Without Wounds and Southern Lone Blade for example. Both men created a makeshift pole and tied a sack of letters on either end, hauling it over one shoulder as his free hand grabbed a sack, so now they could each carry 3 sacks in a single trip. Those without strength like Flame cinched clothes and the others had it rough since the 3 sacks of letters they each had meant they would have to make many trips to get it all done. This was when young Master Han pushed open the door and waved his hand out to the players passing by outside, looking to hire movers. 10 gold coins a single trip. Those with strength may come forward. Many players stepped forward almost instantaneously. Everyone's eyes shone as they ran to the doorway and picked their men. It was mostly newbies that were interested in doing menial labor for 10 gold coins, and they were all afraid these people would run off after picking up their sacks, so they gave these workers 5 gold coins up front first. These newbies were elated, picking up the burlap sacks and followed behind Goofy and the rest, who were all looking refreshed as they led the way, pointing and laughing at War Without Wounds and Southern Lone Blade, who had to personally do the work themselves. The task of sending the letters was much easier in comparison, as all the system required was the IGN for the recipients and it would be sent accordingly. Everyone had already filled this in when they were writing out the replies in the first place, so all they needed to do now was grab the letters by the handful and dump them all into the mailbox. Once they close up the mailbox, there would not be any delay as the system sent it all to the respective recipient instantly. As for the sender's IGN, the system would just designate it to be whomever tossed it into the mailbox, so only Goofy, the current point of contact, and Brother Assist, the promoter, were the 2 who did the sending. All the others did was stuff the letters into the hands of these 2 men, or were specifically holding up the cover of the mailbox, or just keeping watch to ensure no letter was accidentally lost in the process. Working with one another, each picking different trolls, they managed to finish this bit of work in just under 1 hour. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and they all felt a wave of ease wash over them. Yet this was exactly the moment when Brother Assist said something a little unpleasant. Don't lose the burlap sacks. Keep it, since we're gonna be using them in 2 days' time. Just saying that sentence alone, Brother Assist almost found himself dead on the street. Stop hitting me, let's quickly head back and split our earnings. Brother Assist yelled out in an effort to divert everyone's attention. All the gold coins they collected was still sitting in their office right now. That was the big function that a private property possessed, it could be used for storage. However, using it for storage meant the owner will have to calculate the volume themselves, and unlike the warehouse the system provided, or a player's dimensional pocket, the usage of its space was versatile. At the end of the day, the splitting of earnings was something that those involved were very enthused for, so everyone quickly made their way back to the office. Minus the 100,000 gold coins Brother Assist had taken, there was still 4 million gold coins left with several thousands to spare. However, the people had their sights set significantly higher than before. The thousands of gold coins was nothing but chump change to them now. So how were they going to split the profits? They had already discussed this matter previously, but none of them knew what to expect, so they decided to postpone it till after they collected everything. Now that the time has come, they will finally have to make a decision. It was a very sensitive question. Both parties have 14 men together and could be split into 2 separate groups. Young Masters Elite and Eternal Dominion could be considered as one stake, and Southern Lone Blade and his team as another. How the 7 of them would end up splitting their share would thus be up to themselves. From the very beginning, Southern Lone Blade had always seen Goofy as the boss, so his gaze was precisely set on Goofy at this time, wondering what he would say. In the end, Gufei was preoccupied with something else entirely at the moment. His thoughts were preoccupied with how things cannot continue at this rate, seeing as he had already spent 2 consecutive nights pulling all-nighters for this business. Seeing no one saying a word at this crucial point, it was young Master Han who ended up starting the conversation. "What? None of you have any ideas?" "Shall I speak since none of you have any clue?" "Go ahead." War Without Wounds and the others hurriedly relented. Who would dare to raise any suggestions in front of someone like young Master Han? "We've all been working hard, but everyone here has seen just how lucrative our profit is. 4 million gold coins, I doubt anyone here has ever come across such a huge sum, right? With such an abundant remuneration, I believe everyone would not care to nitpick over who did more work and who did less, nor would they mind how significant their contribution was," young Master Han said. Everyone understood what he was insinuating. Take for example, how much effort Brother Assist had expended on promoting this round, while the names of Sword Demon and the others had used our names and reputation as a valued endorsement, drawing plenty of attention to the business. At the same time, the entire operation had essentially been young Master Han's plan, and it was Southern Lone Blade's team that had privately done plenty of painstakingly meticulous work. It would be very troublesome if they were to compare these different tasks and assign a hard value against it. What young Master Han meant was that, since there was so much money involved, and the fraction anyone would get from this would not be a sum they would usually see, there should not be any need for everyone to quibble over their portion. Of course, Miles and Dominion are the exceptions, young Master Han added. Everyone nodded their head. That much was certain. They had already discussed this before. Given how the 2 men were the source of the entire business, this made them the evil capitalists holding all the cards. Aside from them, there's a total of 12 of us here. 250,000 gold coins each would make it 3 million. We'll leave the rest for the 2 men to split between themselves. Anyone have any objections? Young Master Han asked. Nope. Everybody shook their heads. Taking away 3 million gold coins from the 4 million gold coins would leave 1 million gold coins, making an even split of 500,000 gold coins each between Gufei and Eternal Dominion. It was twice as much as what each of them got, which everybody found acceptable. Thus, young Master Han turned to gaze at the 2 men, "And the both of you?" "We're fine with this arrangement," Gufei said, while Eternal Dominion nodded to show his approval as well. "Time to take your money then." Young Master Han waved his arms grandly, yet the scene where everyone hungrily pounced upon the gold did not occur. The money was as good in their own pockets by now, so it was not like anyone would be able to get more gold doing something like that, so why would anyone be in a hurry? Everyone carried themselves graciously as they took turns to step up one by one, picking out the amount they had each been allocated with without much of a fuss. However, Brother Assist was scratching his head by the side at this time, sheepishly saying, "By the looks of our profit split, it seems like the 100,000 gold coin reward I got just now was a little too much." Each of them got 250,000 gold coins, but Brother Assist ended up having 100,000 more than the rest because he was quicker than anyone else when it came to writing letters by several minutes. He could not help but feel a little uneasy, especially since he was the one who came up with the idea in the first place. "Just take it," young Master Han said, completely unperturbed. "The reward system should stay. It helps encourage everyone. But perhaps we don't have it for something as nonsensical as that." "Then where should the reward go to?" Everyone pricked their ears to inquire about this. Writing happened to be Brother Assist's strong suit this time around, so everyone was eager to hear which task would the next reward be placed in, so they could all practice beforehand. Young Master Han swept his gaze through the crowd and asked, "Drinking, perhaps?" Scram! The lot of them turned away. Once each of them finished collected their 250,000 gold coins respectively, the remaining gold coins were left to be split between the 2 capitalists. Gufei casually strolled over and took a few bags, before nudging the remaining bags over to Eternal Dominion and said, "The rest is for you." "How can that be? You've done much more than me." Eternal Dominion was very sincere. "It's not like I'm short on money, Gufei shrugged. Eternal Dominion was in tears. How despicable was it for him to hurt his pride using such a way? Everybody had the shock of their lives when they saw Gufei gave up the mountain of gold coins before him. Royal Godcall quickly scrambled over and asked, "Can I take some?" "Don't." "He needs this to eke out a living." Had this not been the reason, Gufei would not have minded sharing it with everyone. "We are dependent on our earnings here too." The 7 professional gamers raised their hands. "He and I are both affiliated," Gufei said. This was blatant favoritism on his part, but Gufei felt it was reasonable. Even if Southern Lone Blade and his men had no other recourse but to earn a living through being professional gamers, they would not have been so helpless like martial practitioners. This was something that was considered a lifelong study, so he would not hope for it to be prescribed a value. While using a monetary measure was very superficial and rudimentary, the problem was how kung fu was precisely something that was impossible to measure in any monetary sense with regards to society as a whole. This was a feeling that most people would not experience. These 1 million gold coins were originally shared between Gufei and Eternal Dominion anyway, so it was nobody's business but theirs. For Royal Godcall to come over and ask was him being shameless. Southern Lone Blade and the others raising their hands was really just them joking around with Gufei. None of them had any intention of getting a share, so obviously nobody had any issues with what Gufei did. Eternal Dominion happily kept the remaining 960,000 gold coins in his dimensional pocket. Gufei had only symbolically taken 4 bags. Miles come from a wealthy family. Brother Assist helped provide background information to everyone, sharing with them what he had learned from Eternal Dominion the other day. "Fuck, so he's got the makings of a pay-to-win player," everyone exclaimed. Thank God he didn't. Everyone could not imagine Gufei being armed to the teeth like Svelte Dancer. Just how fearsome would he become? But his equipment isn't too far off either. Someone muttered. Gufei's was relatively well geared now. His Moonlit Nightfalls and Midnight Spirit Robe were both extremely over-leveled equipment, while the other pieces he had on were either gold or purple tier. Everything he had on was either boss or quality quest drops that would not be sold in the market, and that could be considered rather splendid as it was. "Let's go shopping." These experts had their pockets lined with gold coins right now, and could actually be considered to be at the level of pay-to-win warriors themselves. When Gufei was auctioning off his Moonlit Nightfalls before, Svelte Dancer had only used 20,000 gold coins to buy the item, right? That was seen as a sky-high price back then, but each and every one of them now holds 250,000 gold coins. If 20,000 gold coins were all it took to buy off something at Moonlit Nightfalls level 12 times over, one for every month, the amount they now hold would last them a full year. However, using gold coins like this, it depended more on getting the chance to do so. Svelte Dancer was also envious when she first laid eyes on the Windchaser's boots, right? And those boots were nowhere near the level of Moonlit Nightfalls. The whole lot of them boisterously made toward the auction house in a full sprint, looking exactly like absolute upstarts. In the meantime, Southern Lone Blade and his team of 6 remained in the room, and it was apparent they were the ones who made ends meet as professional gamers. Each one of them was currently treating the gold they earned like treasure, carefully saving it. Currently, there were no official channels for gold coins to be cashed in for real-world currency, so they had to first purchase equipment, before putting said equipment up on the trade exchange to get their money out of it. The vicious system was bound to charge taxes from these transactions, which was why these professional gamers like Southern Lone Blade would not do something like this. Instead, they opted to directly make use of an online listing to sell their virtual currency. Rest up if you don't have anything to do. Tomorrow's going to be another busy day. Young Master Han was the last of the men who left, reminding Gufei, Eternal Dominion, and Southern Lone Blade's team right before he departed. All of them nodded to acknowledge this. It was the 1st of March when they got online to sort out the remaining letters. They spent the time after writing out replies, and it was already the morning of the 2nd of March now. The time their letters had stated for the lesson was on the 3rd of March, which was not even 24 hours away, so the slightest bit of urgency was there. Since the 9 of them had no intention of spending their gold coins, they went to log out in a hurry. After spending a whole day resting, Gufei did not go online again and casually spent his time perusing the internet leisurely. Dom Yumadu's interview was also properly sorted by this time and was published on the Good Games Network website. This pair was also considered to be renowned reporters within the gaming circles, so their report naturally made the rounds among the gossips. So even though Gufei had no idea what Good Games Network was, he soon stumbled onto the article they had done on him. Their article was neither filled with flashy words or baseless assertions. While Dom Yumadu gave off the air of someone who was a bit comical and unreliable during the interview, the final article itself was factual and measured, especially the information he gleaned from Gufei with regards to Kung Fu, which really gratified Gufei when he read it. Dom Yumadu had not simply focused on catering to the interest of their readers but had first catered to the interviewees' interest, so they had already given high praise to the weekend cultural institution known as Kung Fu. It was not that no media had ever given such a level of empty praise before, and the Kung Fu community would often organize events and activities in an effort to promote Kung Fu, to change the state of decline it was currently experiencing. Regretfully, Kung Fu was truly too far removed from the day-to-day lives of the current era. Anyone could commend the wonders of Kung Fu, but everyone would be stumped when asked what purpose would being good at Kung Fu serve. To say things like it being a personal challenge, or to develop and push the physical limits of being human was as empty as expressing amazement and wonder. To say it was good for punishing evil or upholding peace in the world, the relevant departments would not concur. That was why Kung Fu was something that was truly difficult to handle without anyone putting in the necessary effort. But Dom Yumadu's angle was different. Kung Fu was good, but what was it good for? Take a look at Thousand Miles Drunk, and all would be clear. Look at the efficient monster grinding routine, and anyone would know. Still doubtful? Then listen to some of these first-hand comments made by some of these people we interviewed. Gufei had no idea where Dom Yumadu had found this bunch of people to interview, and it was quite possible they were just Bluey's comrades that they had met outside the trade exchange. They had all been enemies of Gufei during the days when they were back in Y City, and might very well have been on the receiving end of Gufei's sword, while those who had not been slain by Gufei would have seen people around them suffer that fate, so they could all be considered as first-hand accounts. The whole lot of them had the most instinctive impression of Gufei's prowess, and now that they were on the other side of the fence, happily standing on the same side as Gufei, it was only natural for them to be singing praises and bragging resoundingly when asked. Thus, Dom Yumadu's report was filled with glowing compliments, filled with deeds, witnesses, and examples. Among the players of Parallel World, Kung Fu had indeed been effectively promoted among the player base. Everyone knew of its existence and were all the more aware that there was only one word to describe Kung Fu in this game: strong. At the same time, Dom Yumadu had also dropped a piece of extra spicy information, and that was where Moonlit Nightfalls and Midnight Spirit Robe originated from. This was something Dom Yumadu had learned that they had not expected Gufei would so happily divulge. This was unlike an expert grasping a peerless secret manual, who would avoid leaking anything about it in order to safeguard their own strength. The saying "do not make too much noise when coming into money" derived from this same logic. However, Gufei did not have such reservations. He had quite a deep impression of what happened with the werewolves, so he gave a clear account of everything. After this article by Dom Yumadu was published, Y City's Yaguang village instantly became a tourist hotspot. It was purely coincidental that Y City was in the vicinity for the horde of players that had traveled over to Beishi City to spectate the efficient monster grinding routine, so in 2 to 3 hours after the article dropped, the place was already overcrowded with players, everyone earnestly interacting with every NPC there, visiting the dilapidated church, Mr. Adrian's mansion, the cave hidden in the forest, the grave without a corpse. These few locations that cropped up during Gufei's quest became scenic sites since they had not been refreshed just because the quest had ended. Players arrived to see the traces left behind, each of them hoping to discover an enhanced version of Moonlit Nightfalls. For a time, the fervor toward this matter matched that of the efficient monster grinding routine. What had originally been an interview with Thousand Miles Drunk's workshop with a focus on the efficient monster grinding style had become an article about Thousand Miles Drunk's tumultuous in-game journey. Readers could see what it was like for an expert martial practitioner to join the game from the article, a story of how he broke new ground and struck out on his own, only depending on his own skills and expertise, and had now developed into a path of riches. Furthermore, Dom Umadu had another accompaniment piece that was called Highlights of the Interview. People familiar with Dom Umadu all knew about their practice of providing a highlight with their interview, which was actually just an account of what other things happened throughout the course of the interview. These things were nothing particularly deep and largely unconfirmed, but it would be reported to share with everyone, for the readers to deduce what they would from it. But this time, what Dom Umadu reported was the incident with Silver Moon being chased till he got encircled. Dom Umadu had not included any of their own inferences and had merely described everything and everyone he had seen as succinctly as possible. The highlight included a record of the conversation between Silver Moon, Thousand Miles Drunk, and other named players. In short, at the end of the piece, even though Dom Umadu had not made any sort of conclusion, anyone with half a brain could evidently reach this conclusion. The self-proclaimed Fleeting Smile was the ex-moderator of the gossip forum board, known as the Prophetic Emperor, one Autumn Leaf, who was suspected to be a game employee. The repercussions of this particular highlight were particularly pronounced, as players from every forum were all guessing the authenticity of this particular information. Some privately messaged one Autumn Leaf, and others came online to try and get in touch with Fleeting Smile. The fact was that game employees have plenty of permissions in the game, and players had no idea if they would be all powerful. All they knew was that there was no doubt that such people would have plenty of principal opportunities over the average player. At the same time, there were also players who wished for officials to step forward and give an explanation, to give a proper account if there truly was such an indubitable game-breaking existence. Game-breaking? What was game-breaking? This was something measured in everyone's hearts, with differing viewpoints, and on a different scale from person to person. For the people who were more tolerant, the measure of balance was a little more lenient, as for those who were more harsh and acrimonious, their measure of balance would be far stricter. Or perhaps the value they hold in their hearts was beyond that of wants, and with this change in vision, it would be on an entirely different scale altogether. However, among the players, plenty of them did indeed consider a game employee being capable of playing the game to be something they could not stand. This was also the reason why such an unwritten rule was observed by these companies. Chapter 619, Squat Down, Stand Up. Yizia. Ooh. Gu Fei thought of that man's name. The incident with the Prophetic Emperor seemed to be targeting Silver Moon and No Smile, and it did not seem to bear any threat to Gu Fei at all. This man had spoken of his intention to rectify Gu Fei, but there was no further movement than those two previous clashes. Gu Fei had not physically bumped into that man ever since then. But that only made Gu Fei even more convinced that he must have something set up. There was hardly a peep out from Fleeting Smile when he had nothing planned, but everything would strike as quick and impactful like a bolt of lightning when he acted. This looked to be another show of perseverance, Gu Fei thought to himself as he connected into the game. At the moment, it was 3 a.m. on the 3rd of March, and the first session for imparting the efficient monster grinding routine for White Mill was just an hour away. According to the regulation of temporary workers needing to assist each batch all the way through, it was evident he would have to take part in the tutoring of the clients before this could be considered complete. A quick glance of his friends list when he logged in, the names that ought to be online were all there, and some who were supposed to be offline were also there. Gu Fei grabbed the two students that were still up and chided them accordingly. Under the threat of running 8 kilometers, the two students bitterly logged out of the game several minutes later. After that, he received a message from Damu. The man had stayed up waiting for Gu Fei the whole day, finally catching him come online, all just to speak of their intention to follow him and do up an article of Gu Fei and the others teaching at the White Mill. Dom Umadu's objective report, as well as his praise and respect towards Kung Fu, had given Gu Fei a good impression of the two reporters. So after consulting with the other members of the elite for their opinion, he agreed to Damu's request. "See you at the East Gate," Gu Fei replied to Damu. Sword Demon, Southern Lone Blade, and the others were already heading over right now. Even though their students had already been sorted into 4 different sets, each set numbered up to 10,000 players. It was quite difficult organizing such numbers. Moreover, they were not all a part of a guild or mercenary group. 10,000 players meant 10,000 separate voices, so it was quite a challenge to unify such numbers. Under the East Gate, Gufei saw both Damu and Mewtwo. The two were pretty much jumping for joy that they had this chance to do the interview this time around, at the same time reminding Gufei that the two of them had also registered for the lessons as well. Gufei was stunned, for it had slipped his mind that the two had registered to Gufei in person, and they had even paid the fees up front. Gufei was walking toward the east gate at the moment, and he could already see the mass of players gathered there. It was 3:34 a.m. now, yet it was apparent that there were plenty of players who figured it was better to be early than late, arriving at the rendezvous point before the stipulated time. Gufei walked in this direction together with Damu, and the scene was equally as novel for him as for the two reporters. He figured the others might very well have done plenty of preparation beforehand, but the point was that he had simply sat back with his leg up the whole day and done nothing. However, there was no burden in Gufei's heart as he had only took 40,000 gold coins, so who would poke and prod him? Getting closer, Gufei saw that all the players were gathered together, and there seemed to be a raised platform within, where young Master Han and Brother Assist were both standing on. They seemed to be saying something, but Gufei was unable to hear them considering how far away he was from them. Thus, Gufei sent a question over the mercenary channel, "What are you guys saying?" In the end, no one replied. The three of them were standing by the outermost ring, and Gufei had no idea how long it would take for him to squeeze his way in. Young Master Han and Brother Assist remained the only two on the raised platform inside, and the others had mentioned they had arrived, though he had no idea where they were in this thronging crowd. He was feeling helpless when Brother Assist suddenly sent out a message over the mercenary channel, "Damn, we should have added serial numbers on the letters. That would definitely make things a lot easier." "Yeah, we'll do it next time," Sword Demon replied. "What's happening?" Gufei quickly seized this chance to ask the two men. "It's more or less under control now. You don't have to be bothered by this, just head straight to the White Mill and make preparations there," Brother Assist said. "Okay." Gufei no longer cared to find out what was happening and prepared to leave. However, the two reporters Damu and Mewtwo wanted to do an in-depth coverage of this, so they decided to stay and interview a few more players and find out what was happening, before leaving with the majority to the White Mill after. The three of them parted ways there and then. At the same time Gufei departed, he glanced at the raised platform right in the center of the mob and saw Brother Assist suddenly raising a large sign, with a large, single word, "Silence." The man then proceeded to flash this in every direction as he walked about the platform, letting all the players have a good look like he was a ring girl in a boxing ring. Gufei made a beeline toward the White Mill after he left that rendezvous point. Compared to the hype from the first day, the White Mill was far quieter. Adding to the fact that it was still in the wee hours of the morning, there was hardly a scene with the sort of crowd that was seen the day before. However, the players that were still grinding here continued to look around, as if they were hoping for something to happen. The moment Gufei reached the location, he could see Eternal Dominion, Southern Lone Blade, and the others in the distance, standing by a mill having a discussion. After Gufei sent a message over to Eternal Dominion, the whole lot of them turned and spotted Gufei making his way over to them. "You're finally here," these men shouted. As Gufei got closer, he could see that every one of them was sweating profusely. Gufei had no idea what they were doing. "What happened?" Gufei asked. "Nothing. We're just tired." Handling people is far more tiring than handling things. At least with things, getting them to do something would not result in them doing something else entirely different. Even if there is a mistake, it would all be your fault. But the handling of people would often see them doing something entirely different from what you initially instructed. You could literally die from anger when that happens often enough, Southern Lone Blade said in a huff. "It took us more than half an hour just to get a hold of the situation," Southern Lone Blade explained. "Oh, why was that?" "It's nothing, actually. It's just a lot of people, and their chatter was endless, making it difficult to pass around instructions, making it near impossible to coordinate with everyone," Southern Lone Blade said. "So how did you guys manage it in the end?" "What else can we do other than inform them one by one and make arrangements individually, before we finally got everyone organized?" That was when young Master Han gave a suggestion and had the people surrounding him all around. From there, he would utter a single sentence which would be repeated and orally passed down to the people on the outside. Thus, people who understood would squat down, while those who had not heard the message would ask those squatting down, so all we had to do was just wait till everyone squatted down, right? The next sentence would then be passed down, and for those who heard it would stand up, while those who failed to catch it would ask those who stood up. Everyone would be standing once everyone heard that sentence, and everything was clearly passed down by proceeding in that fashion. Southern Lone Blade said, "I didn't see that when I went over moments ago." Gufei found it strange. "It's not time yet, right?" Southern Lone Blade glanced at the time. 3:56 a.m. "We're still 4 minutes off. He'll probably begin once everyone's there." Gufei felt a little regret. What a tremendous sight it would have been to witness 10,000 players squatting and standing like that. Of course, such an effective and secretly hurtful idea would be young Master Han's brainchild. "So what are you all doing here?" Gufei asked the others present. "We're dividing up the land." With 10,000 players coming, split into 10 separate groups, the 9 of us will take one each, while Brother Assist said he would take the last one. "Look, here are the sites all labeled up." Southern Lone Blade took out a piece of the map and showed it to Gufei. There were circles written on it, representing the mills in the white mill grinding map. 10 of them were labeled from 1 to 10, and the corresponding coordinates were written next to each of them. "Which one will mine be?" Gufei asked. "The 8 of us have already chosen our spots. These here are the 2 remaining sites." Southern Lone Blade pointed to 2 of the 10 circles. "I'll take that one." Gufei randomly picked one. Southern Lone Blade nodded his head before saying, "With 1,000 players in each group, these will all be job class specific, 2 groups of mages, 2 of priests, 2 of knights. There's one for warriors, 1 for archers, 1 for thieves, and 1 for fighters. You shall match your job class and take one of the mages." "Sure." Gufei readily agreed. Job class specific groupings were only possible thanks to the efforts of Brother Assist and the others when they were organizing the groups yesterday. Those letters that had the fees enclosed had all been sorted according to their job class and stats, and the final sacks of letters Brother Assist had assigned to them to reply to had not been casually packed. The number of players, job class, and even the time slots were all coordinated accordingly. Because these players were now divided in accordance with their job classes, the stats were no longer that important. After all, finding a mage who had thrown so many points into agility like Gufei was few and far between, so naturally none of the mages would be learning the agility-intensive variant of the routine. Of course, given how vast the world was, there were obviously going to be players out there who persisted in their own pursuits. So all agility warriors, strength-focused thieves, and all these other oddball builds existed. They had also made careful plans for such differences, except they had made sure they were not placed in this first set of students. "It's 4 a.m. Everyone, to your respective sites." Southern Lone Blade announced this at this very moment, as those comrades of his immediately ran to find their own mills. Eternal Dominion leapt up to the mill right before Gufei, making it apparent that this was the location he had chosen. Southern Lone Blade then turned to ask Gufei, "Can you locate your mill?" "Of course." Gufei suspiciously looked at Southern Lone Blade, uncertain why he had asked such a question. Southern Lone Blade did not explain either, as he swiftly made his way over to his own mill. Gufei had no idea, but they had all been online when he had been resting, so it was more convenient for them to discuss what was about to happen later, and they ended up coming together for matters like monster grinding and such. Thus, it was unavoidable for them to begin casually chatting about anything, and one such topic they touched on was Gufei. People who did not personally know Gufei would take him to be a peerless expert, but the members of Young Master's elite knew what he really was. The man might be an expert, but he was an absolute noob when it came to gaming. Adding to the fact that unscrupulous people like Royal Godcall and War Without Wounds were around for these conversations, all the shameful anecdotes that they had experienced suddenly turned into stories about Gufei, like the time when Gufei was hanging over the cliff when they were crossing the bridge in New Long Mountain Pass, or getting lost in Xiao, a city that he ended up needing the help of a kind uncle passing by to lead him around. All these stories made it such that Southern Lone Blade had thought Gufei would be unable to find the coordinates on the map. "Are you in position?" Soon, Gufei received a message of concern from Southern Lone Blade. "Yup," Gufei replied. "Then everyone's in place. I'll inform the other side." Gold would always shine, so even though Southern Lone Blade had been an enemy in the past, but he was capable no matter whose side he was on. Now that he was working together with young Master's elite, he was still able to demonstrate his abilities as a competent leader and had stepped up to take on the responsibility as the person in charge here in the White Mill. At about 4:07 a.m., Gufei witnessed an impressively huge crowd appear in the horizon. It was a throng that near 10,000 players, and that was far more grandiose than the numbers of Yunju on City's expedition or Y City's 10 Guild Alliance combined. Taking another look when they got even closer, Gufei saw there was actually someone leading at the front bearing a huge pennant. Gufei wiped his sweat, as the proof was right before his eyes. Pennants might only be a symbolic expression in the wars of modern society, but in the days of old when methods of communication had not been developed, a pennant like that worked like a guiding light for the masses, taking up the role of leading an inestimable amount of people in a given direction. Take this 10,000 players here, for example. It was impossible for them to add everyone as friends, nor did the system possess any sort of general channel to address such a large gathering of players. A pennant standing tall at the forefront was indeed the most convenient way to get everyone to follow together. As they got even closer, the mob suddenly split up, and they were each arranged into groups, each with their own pennant. Gufei could clearly see there were currently a total of 10 pennants flying in the breeze, and one of these groups was headed right in his direction. The players that had been grinding here in the White Mill were all awed by the sight when they saw so many people descend upon the map like that. With the organization and the numbers, it inadvertently became imposing to behold. The nearby players all privately messaged each other, momentarily unable to figure out that these people were the students for the much anticipated lessons from Thousand Miles Drunk's workshop. Everyone had all come to the White Mill after visiting the wilderness camp, but it was a total mess there. There were guilds, but even if every member of those 3 major guilds there were online, there was only so many of them added up, and each of them were all there just to solo grind. Considering how messy that was, none of them had ever seen such an imposing display, so it was no wonder they hardly made the link. The pennant idea must have been something that they came up with at the last minute, as it was pretty obvious from the quality of the pennant. It was just a large wooden stick, and there was some junk equipment that someone had tossed out tight on it. But upon closer inspection, the equipment was representative of the respective job classes. Take the group that was making its way to Gufei. Their pennant had a mage's novice robe tied to it, and the pennant of the group heading to Southern Lone Blade hoisted a battered warrior's armor. Over on the side with young Master Han and the others, it was apparent they had already instructed the people who are coming over which mill they should be looking for, and it was all the more implicitly understood when they saw who were the instructors stationed at the various mills. Those scattered players that had been grinding would not dare to be in the way of the mob, and they could not be any faster getting out of their way, helplessly watching as they saw these groups of people each homing in on a different mill and surrounding it. Do you know the communication method? Young Master Han sent this message to Gufei. Squat down, stand up? Gufei answered after a pause. He gazed out and could already see players over by the other mills already begun squatting and standing, showing they were already beginning to communicate with each other. Avoid questions, and stick to just imparting instructions, young Master Han said. Once you're good to go, begin as soon as possible. We're heading back, and there should already be the next set of students there. The sooner we get them organized. It was very apparent that this was the first time everyone was doing something like this. Due to their lack of experience, just careful consideration might not be enough to contend with the unexpected emergencies that might crop up that even young Master Han saw the need to devote his attention to, not treating this matter with insouciance as he usually would. Thus, Gufei got serious as well. Seeing these players slowly get into position, a lady furiously waved her hand in the air as she shouted loudly, "Miles, Miles!" With a glimpse, Gufei saw that this lady was Mudu. She was a mage, so she might have specifically asked to be taught by Gufei, so he smiled in her general direction and waved. When everyone heard how loudly she called out, they knew that the mage before them was the legendary Thousand Miles Drunk. A wave of bliss washed over them, as none of them would have expected that they would be able to receive the personal guidance by the man and the myth himself. Seeing everyone standing at the ready, Gufei did not see a point in wasting any more time, so he began, Let's not waste everyone's time and begin immediately. Make way everyone, let me pull a monster over. Ever since Gufei became a teacher, his voice would naturally become sonorous, and adding to the fact that all the 1,000 or so players present were nothing compared to the 10,000 players from before, everybody could more or less hear his voice as they crowded in close, so there was no need for them to squat or stand. Nevertheless, everyone had become used to it by now, so the moment they heard Gufei's words, the players in the inner circle reflexively turned back and passed the message and squatted down. After the message had been conveyed, and everyone squatted down, all of them began to waddle to the side and made a path for Gufei. Gufei leapt down from the mill and dashed out of the crowd. He reached out his unarmed hand and blasted a monster with a lightning bolt, and as the monster came rushing over to him, Gufei had turned around and sprinted back to the mill. Blinking up the mill, he pulled out a magic staff from his dimensional pocket. He was formally teaching these players the efficient monster grinding routine for mages, so he naturally had to use a staff and not a sword. Gufei had gotten ready the 18 arms of Wushu when instructing Southern Lone Blade and his team the various fighting routines, even bringing along 2 broad axes in his dimensional pocket. Now that the tutoring had officially begun, Gufei deftly explained and demonstrated the moves. When he saw the students below still squatting and standing, he had no idea if he should be laughing or crying as he hollered, "If the people on the outside ring can hear me, there's no need for you to squat and stand like that anymore." Despite this, the players on the outside were still worried that what they heard might not be as clear as what those in the inner ring could hear, afraid that they might miss anything, so they continued to act in accordance to the human messenger method they learned. As a result, everyone continued to squat and stand like before. They had plenty of body strength in the game anyway, so they would not feel in the least bit tired doing all these deep squats repeatedly. Gufei could not be bothered with it either and allowed them to carry on their actions as they saw fit. Now the tutoring had officially begun. Those players that had retreated to the distance finally understood what was happening. It was the 1,000 Miles Drunks workshop classes they had heard so much about. Everybody exclaimed as they came from every direction and returned to the ground, all of them getting closer to have a look for themselves. Thus, aside from the 1,000 players in each group, there were also others who added layer upon layer of bodies upon each of these crowds. It was blatantly obvious to anyone that these people were here to freeload. Even though these players who had gone through the proper channels and paid the fee for the classes were feeling dissatisfied about this, they were all currently focused on the lesson they were attending and could hardly care to be bothered with these freeloaders. These students would only end up not learning anything if they wasted time to entangle themselves with these people, and they would evidently be the ones that lose out in the end. Those people who realized this knew that this was absolutely a seller's market in favor of 1,000 Miles Drunks Workshop, and what made this most telling was the addition of the phrase "We will not be waiting for latecomers." 3 a.m. in the morning was such an illogical time slot. But no matter if there was work the next day or they happened to be working the night shift that very night, who would not find the time to get online promptly? The earliest post had already stated that the workshop would be the ones making all the arrangements, while the fees for the lessons were also paid in full, upfront. If anyone was unwilling to make the effort, they have no right to make any qualms, since no one was forced to do this anyway. Even though everyone was angry and annoyed by this, none of them had any alternatives either. This was exactly what it meant to have a monopoly, so all they could do swallow it all even if they had grounded their teeth till the point it broke. Gufei already had plenty of experience when it came to teaching, so in that 45 minutes of his lessons, almost every single one of his students were able to remember the routine they were shown. For these more veteran players with a decent measure of expertise, the time they had was sufficient to achieve this, unless they had spent their coin to fall asleep during the lesson. Gufei followed his process to the letter. First, he gave a complete demonstration of the efficient monster grinding routine for mages, before providing a theoretical explanation and analysis of the routine, breaking it down in the process. Next came the clarification of the key points, areas of focus, and difficulties for its execution, before finally giving an overall review of what had been taught. Those who received Gufei's tutelage were considered fortunate, because while the other tutors for the different routines were more practiced than Gufei when it came to these routines, none of them had the deep kung fu foundation that Gufei possessed, much less the professional background of being a PE teacher. At the moment, 20 minutes had passed in Gufei's lesson, and it was about the time when he was talking about the focus and difficulties people might face. However, these things he was going on about were things that anyone with a good head on their shoulders could tell or experience for themselves. The step that came next would just be further polish, so a good portion of the players had already completely grasped the routine by this time, with several eager to head out and give it a try for themselves. Meanwhile, those freeloading players were having a bit of a rougher time. The 1,000 player capacity to each group was also something Southern Lone Blade and his team had suggested based upon their own research, and going past this 1,000 player threshold meant there was no guarantee for the quality of teaching for the remaining players. They would barely be able to see what was happening, much less hear what the instructors would be imparting. It was already kind enough of these students to not have kicked these freeloaders out, so who would be willing to pass on what they had heard to them? The method of squatting and standing as a form of communication was completely useless to these people. So how was anyone able to differentiate between the people who paid and those who did not? Why, through the letter of reply those students had all been sent, of course. Chapter 620. Ambush. Even though there were differences between the speed of players' comprehension and their study efficiency, these students would all have a grasp of the routine at the end of their 45 minutes lesson under the tutelage of Gufei and the others. Once the lesson ended, quite a good number of them eagerly left to find monsters to begin their practice. Meanwhile, others who clearly still had to wake up early or had other tasks that needed to be done the next day immediately made a beeline back to the city to log out, since they had only forced themselves to get online at this time because they had no choice in the matter. When the lesson by White Mill was over, young Master Han and the others had already begun to organize the second set of students showing up by the East Gate, 400 meters to the south. This time, the people were handled with fewer hiccups after having learnt from the experience of managing the previous set of students. Once the people were gathered, they set off at 4 a.m. sharp toward the White Mill, with none of them caring if that was truly everyone. After all, they had time and time again emphasized on the importance of being prompt and punctual. The second set of students were still split into 1,000-man groups with two of such groups with accordance to the various job classes. Adding Young Masters Elite and Southern Lone Blades team of 7 together, aside from the fighter job class, there were 2 instructors for every other job class, which meant they had enough manpower to take care of this lot. Besides, Gufei and Eternal Dominion could be considered as all-rounder experts that were capable of instructing the routines for any of the job classes. However, even though the 2 of them were able to demonstrate all of these routines, there were a few things they were unable to properly inculcate when taking on these routines that were not of their own job class. This was because the routines Gufei had established this time round were specifically tailored to each job class, and the biggest difference between the current iteration and the original routines he taught in the wilderness camp is how it actually complemented with the skills available to these various job classes. Take, for example, the addition of positioning for a thief when in melee, to give the players the chance to execute their backstab. If Gufei and Eternal Dominion were to give a demonstration of this, all they could do was verbally elaborate on this. Use backstab here for the greatest effect. This spoken instruction would obviously be incomparable to Sword Demon or Blackwater directly plunging in their dagger for a backstab, directly showing the students how it was supposed to be done. Thus, even if they had a severe lack of manpower and were unable to manage the numbers, Gufei and Eternal Dominion would still take on their own job classes, the Mage and Fighter, respectively. Such a situation made Southern Lone Blade and the others a little worried about the batches they would take in the future. Sword Demon and the others were obviously not going to be around then, so if the 7 of them were the only ones picking up this task, they would most likely die of exhaustion from having to organize and sort through the letters, as well as the tutelage of the efficient monster grinding routines to the students after. Southern Lone Blade had been a professional gamer for many years, and this was finally the chance for him to rake in a fortune, yet they had to put in an inhumane amount of work to earn it. There was no point in overthinking about whatever happened afterwards. Everybody poured their hearts into tutoring, and by the time the first lesson was over, the second set of students were already settled. Half of the first set of students had departed, leaving the other half still around. The same thing happened with the second set of students as well, and adding in those players in the wild that hung around, the White Mill was currently extremely crowded, numbering far beyond the 10,000 players. That was not the end of it either. In a blink of an eye, young Master Han had sent the third set of students over, and the number of players climbed up to 20,000, a sea of players that thronged and bustled to no end. Gu Fei and the others had already expected such a situation. At the moment, the players who had graduated were in a hurry to find monsters for them to practice on, and they were already complaining about having difficulty getting these monsters. There were even more experienced players who realized there would be even more people coming over as time went by, and if they were all coming to grind here, it would be inevitable for them to end up battling one another for the monsters. Some had already begun to take note of the numbers, and came forward to inquire just how many players were learning the routines. Furthermore, there were some who had already begun to set up their own businesses catered to those wild players, and were now providing a second-hand lessons. Gu Fei and the others saw everything unfold before their eyes, and they were all the more impressed with just how wise it was to collect the fees in advance before tutoring the routines. Thanks to that, they no longer had to be bothered with these players who were setting up their own fronts and continued to impart the routines to the third and fourth sets of students arriving. When the third set ended, the cacophony of human voices in the White Mill grinding map was already at a record high. It was a lot more complex for the fourth set of students, as there were plenty of players with unique builds included, such as the strength-focused thieves, agility-based warriors, or even knights with endurance builds. There were even people who idolized and imitated Gu Fei's full agility mage build, who not only learned the routine from Gu Fei himself, but even pestered him for autographs. Some of the tutors had no choice but to swap the job classes they were instructing, like how Southern Lone Blade took charge to teach the strength-focused thieves, and Sword Demon had to wield 2 claymores in his hands to teach the agility-based warriors. In order to deal with such a situation, each and every one of them had learned several different routines beforehand, so even though they were not particularly adept with them, they would still be much better than those independent bootleggers who just learned these routines themselves. And if they truly could not deal with it, did they not have the 2 trailblazing founders Gu Fei and Eternal Dominion to depend on? They spent a lot more time teaching this fourth set of students. When everything was done, it was already 9:30 a.m. The White Mill grinding map was extremely lively by this time. Plenty of players in the early shift had rushed over to report, and they were all wearing miserable expressions when they found out the efficient monster grinding routine lessons had already finished over the course of the wee hours before. However, when they saw that there were still the bootleggers teaching, these players eagerly ran over to secretly learn from them instead. The White Mill slowly trended toward the chaos scene in the wilderness camp, where students were being enrolled everywhere, kill-stealing, fighting over land, and those that occupied a spot and held down the fort. Meanwhile, when players from the wilderness camp heard this news, a lot of players also came over to observe, and so the 2 grinding maps became a mess one after another. In the meantime, Gu Fei and the others were already making their way back to the city, talking and laughing merrily as they went. It was apparent that Gu Fei, Sword Demon, and the others who were determined to simply be temporary workers would not be participating in the next batch, so they were all in high spirits. So much so that they had forgotten their own exhaustion. Southern Lone Blade and the other professional gamers were also extremely satisfied with the income they had gotten from doing this work, but when they thought of how Sword Demon and the others would not be around for the next batch, they could not help but feel a little gloomy when they realized they would have to deal with all the labor themselves. Although not having them around denotes that there would be fewer people to split the profits with, which nationally meant each of them would be able to earn far more. However, a deeper reflection would be required when the choice was between money or life. Oh right. Gu Fei suddenly thought of something. Brother Assist, about Dusky Cloud, Oathless Sword, Brave Surge. Did all these guild leaders reach out to you that day? That day, all these leaders had each sought Gu Fei to register their interest to be taught by Gu Fei, causing him to be overwhelmed by everyone. Later on, after he learned from young Master Han to designate an auto-reply message to ask Brother Assist, he had yet to ask what was the result of everything. Yeah, they contacted me. That Dusky Cloud was really rash, claiming he would send his 4,000 strong guild over to register for our lessons, Brother Assist said. But I don't think I saw any of them turn up, right? Goofy said. Hee, it was all just talk. Did you really think he would lead all 4,000 players over here? Brother Assist chuckled. So what happened in the end? Goofy asked. In the end, I told him if he was interested in registering, he'll have to send us the money by mailing it to you. But I don't think we received anything from Dusky Cloud, Oathless Sword, or the other guild leaders, right? Brother Assist said. Nope. Everyone shook their heads. Sorting out the letters had not been done by a single person, so even though none of them could remember all the names they came across, they were sure to have an impression of coming across any of those names given how famous the IGNs of people like Dusky Cloud, Oathless Sword, and the other guild leaders were. However, I reckon there's sure to be players from their guilds here among our students today, Brother Assist said. Goofy thought about it and saw the sense in his words. If Dusky Cloud truly wanted to send his 4,000 men to learn the efficient monster grinding routine, he would need a total of 396,000 gold coins if every player went by the usual rate of 99 gold coins per person. While he might not have to bear the burden of the cost alone, it would be preferable to simply send 10 or so players over to learn and return back to their guild to teach the routines to their own guild mates. This would only cost them 990 gold coins, and the difference between the two sums were simply too huge. It's not just them. Who knows how many of those students we got today are actually from all those major guilds? We'll soon know if we keep watching. Let's see how many guilds will and station themselves in the White Mill grinding map, Brother Assist said. You've given this issue quite a thorough read, huh, Brother Assist? Goofy commended. Brother Assist's face instantly turned a bright red. Originally, I had thought I could try and contact these guilds a little and save us the trouble of needing to advertise and sort through letters like what we had done for the last few days. These guilds would have an easier time mobilizing like this, but in the end, Goofy and the others had a clear idea just what happened in the end. However, Southern Loneblade and the others had no idea, and while Flame-Singed Clothes was listening to Brother Assist's explanation, the mage quickly followed up to ask when Brother Assist's speech came to a sudden abrupt end, what happened in the end? I got scorned. Brother Assist replied dispiritedly. Indeed, Goofy and the others thought to themselves. Young Master Han was acting as if he had heard nothing as he calmly drank his liquor. Flame-Singed Clothes was still as confused as before, foolishly inquire, scorned? Why would you be scorned? You'll know why as time goes by, Goofy said, as he patted Flame-Singed Clothes' shoulders. Flame-Singed Clothes had a severe reaction to this, as the color from his face draining when Goofy patted him. It was evident his fear toward Goofy still lurked about in his heart. Suddenly being patted by Goofy in such a fashion caused him to think he was about to be insta-killed. Everyone broke into uproarious laughter when they saw that wildly inept reaction of his. Goofy had not thought he would create such a deep psychological scar in someone and was feeling rather embarrassed. No longer daring to pat that man anymore, he could only sheepishly say, "What are you panicking for?" Everyone was in a jovial mood as they chatted and laughed their way back to the city. Unfortunately, Brother Assist was unable to read the mood and wanted to talk to people about their next batch of routines. Brother Assist pointed into the distant hill as they happened to be strolling through a level 30 grinding map. Actually, we don't have to stick to just level 40 maps. Level 30 players have the same needs as well, and they might perhaps be all the more pressed to level. Level 30 players should easily accept the 99 gold coins price tag. So why don't we try to develop a lower level market for the next batch? Level 30. Yes, we should develop that, young Master Han nodded. Goofy and the others did not have anything to say, but Flame-Singed Clothes was still a greenhorn, who proceeded to ask, by your logic, there's still level 20 and level 10 as well. We should begin from level 10. Young Master Han gave the man a glance, not saying a word, as he turned to Southern Loneblade. Rein in your men. Don't let them spout nonsense on things they have no knowledge of. Fuck. Flame-Singed Clothes was infuriated, as Goofy very bitterly told him, now you know how people would be scorned, right? Flame-Singed Clothes was taken aback even as Southern Loneblade spoke up, the speed players could level below 30 is still considerably fast. There's a limit to the value of introducing an efficient monster grinding routine. which meant 99 gold coins would be seen as expensive. There's really no need to deal with the possible routines for those under level 30. So we're all okay with doing level 30s for the next batch? Brother Assist sought everyone's opinion on this. Fine with me. Southern Lone Blade said, looking toward Gufei and Eternal Dominion. They needed Gufei and Eternal Dominion's expertise and techniques no matter where they ended up going, so the ultimate decision laid with them. Fine by me, Gufei replied nonchalantly. Same here. Eternal Dominion nodded. Southern Lone Blade felt the matter was settled once these two men gave the approval, but he saw that Brother Assist was actually looking at young Master Han. Brother Assist was truly like a bird surprised by a bow one, afraid that his suggestion would be met with contempt if he failed to notice some major loophole. Level 30 it is. Young Master Han said, nodding to show his approval as well. Then let us investigate the possible locations. Here in Beishi City, the level 30 grinding maps are. Brother Assist had begun to flip through his notebook. Brother Assist. Everyone had an expression of having swallowed a bitter pill. Did Brother Assist intend to never stop, not even caring to let everyone have a bit of time to deal with the emotional transition? What? Brother Assist was confused. You need to balance work and leisure, everyone said. We're not working now. This is merely a discussion of information. Brother Assist exclaimed. But that only resulted in everyone crying out, Brother Assist. This might be an interest of yours, but this is considered work for us. Brother Assist had embarrassed himself with his own enthusiasm, so he dolefully kept his booklet. Fine. We'll talk about this in 2 days' time. Work hard, you can do it. Royal God Call and War Without Wounds were not going to be helping out for this next batch, so they gleefully cheered on everyone, laughing at their expense. Southern Lone Blade and his team were left feeling rather despondent. Just what are these people? Why did we suffer such huge losses by their hands back then? These guys were all acting like a bunch of undisciplined hoodlums. Just how could a disciplined and professional team like ours even withstand taking such a blow to our ego? Everybody were just about to leave this level 30 grinding map when suddenly, they all heard a sharp whistle. Anyone familiar with the sound cues found in the game would recognize this to be the sound made by an archer's snipe, and it was nothing new hearing it here in a level 30 grinding map. Archers would often be found using this particular skill while they were grinding, but the sound of the snipe had actually originated from somewhere nearby. While everyone was still dumbfounded, Gufei had already twisted his body to the side even as that arrow brushed right past his face. The others instantly realized they were being ambushed. Everyone here was a park veteran, aside from Brother Assist, so they were all immediately able to determine the direction of the enemy just from that arrow trajectory. Turning toward in that direction in unison, Southern Lone Blade had already pulled out his shield and propped it before him as the rest of his team all took cover behind him in a show of perfect cooperation. Young Master Han and the other members of Young Master's elite glanced at War Without Wounds, as that man kicked his leg helplessly. Don't look at me, I'm not a guardian. He's not one either, Royal God Call pointed out. He's so shameless. How can a berserker even use a shield? War Without Wounds was very miserable as well. He had been wondering about this question himself as well, but the two of them were not that familiar with each other yet, so he never found the chance to ask Southern Lone Blade about this. Southern Lone Blade and the others had thrown a quick side glance, wondering to themselves, just what sort of expert team are they? They are currently being ambushed, yet they still have the time to be flapping their lips instead of getting ready to defend and mount a counterattack. Ultimately, they saw Gufei had already drawn his sword and darted toward the direction where the arrow came flying from. Seeing that man's verve, Southern Lone Blade and his team involuntarily glanced at their own mage flame-singed clothes. Totally incomparable. They thought to themselves. Having determined the location of the enemy via the direction the attack came from, which was a large boulder dozens of meters beyond, Royal God Call used his eagle eye to take a look and reported, 3 players. Just the human eye alone could tell there were only 3 assailants. There was no need to use eagle eye to confirm that. Meanwhile, young Master Han had already calmly pulled out his spyglass. After a glance, he stowed it away. Fleeting smile. It's him, was what everyone was thinking. Sword Demon and the others were apparently aware that the man was out to cause trouble for them, and Southern Lone Blade was also aware of this. Even if he had already backed out from cooperating with Fleeting Smile, He did believe that the man still had not given up the thought of confronting Gufei. He simply never thought he would act now. Could he have already come up with some method to take care of Thousand Miles drunk? There were indeed 3 players up on that huge boulder. When that first shot of his missed, Broken Water Arrow chuckled, "I told you, didn't I?" Don't underestimate them just because they are just some gamers, especially that Thousand Miles drunk. So how about it? A single arrow and your position had already been revealed. Ambush. Broken Water Arrow had turned to the other side to remind Yixiao at the end of his comment. The man who had made the initial shot was half kneeling, gripping the bow in one hand as his other hand pulled the bowstring back once more. However, this man seemed entirely unconvinced by what Broken Water Arrow had said. The sound of projectiles in this game is even louder than that of a gunshot, especially the snipe skill. How could I not be exposed? With that said, the man let loose his hand on the bowstring, except that in the instant when he let it loose, his other hand holding onto the bow handle trembled ever so slightly. A double shot came flying out, yet the 2 arrows veered off thanks to that slight tremble. What would have originally been 2 consecutive shots that followed the same path had evidently created 2 different trajectories as a result of this slight change at release. Gufei had been bounding toward the large boulder when he heard the twang of the bowstring. He watched as the 2 arrows came hurtling over, and that exceptional eyesight of his could tell that the 2 arrows had a different flight path in a glance. The first shot was the attack as anticipated, yet its target was somewhere on the left side of his body. It was easy enough for him to dodge this attack with a sidestep to the right, but doing so would put him perfectly in the path of that second arrow of that double shot, which just so happened to be aimed at the spot a single step to the right of his leading arrow. To think this person could actually set such a precise trap with something as simple as double shot. This man's caliber is sure to be better than Royal God calls. He's sure to be someone who had actual mastery of the bow. Gufei thought to himself even as he took a large stride to his left, letting that first shot past him as that second went more outrageously awry in its trajectory. Oh! The archer on the large boulder could not help but cry out in exclamation when he saw this. It was not difficult to deftly dodge that shot of his. The real difficulty lay in being able to discern the trap within those 2 shots he made, for that would surely require a visual acuity well beyond the average person. So is this man really a worthy foe? The man wondered to himself even as he had another arrow knocked on his bow, speaking to Broken Water Arrow at the same time, "Synchronize." Without saying another word, Broken Water Arrow pulled out his short crossbow and began firing repeatedly, expending all his crossbow bolts in one go. That archer shook his head and sighed, "The caliber of our attacks at this distance is about the same. 500 meters and up is my paradise." Does this game have any skill that could attack beyond 500 meters? That person tilted his head to ask Yixiao. The ex-game employee shook his head and showed a wry smile. The archer heaved a long sigh when he suddenly ducked his head. The shrill sound of cutting air sounded right over his head as that man appeared unperturbed. "The counterattack has begun." "Yup." Broken Water Arrow answered even as he fitted his cartridge into his crossbow and fired. But Gufei was already slightly familiar with their technique, as he easily made his way dodging the shots with his nifty footwork. Broken Water Arrow was rendered helpless, even as the other man shook his head as well. "Slow, too slow. The speed of the bolts are too slow. No amount of accuracy will matter when the speed of projectiles remains unchanged. This man is entirely capable of reacting in time against all our shots." Saying this, the man released yet another shot from his bow, but his target was not Gufei, but the pack of players that was rushing over to the boulder. "Fuck!" Royal God Call yelled in anger. That shot from the large boulder had struck him in his shoulder. "An expert!" Royal God Call reminded the others. Young Master Han and the other priests had already cast their heels to replenish Royal God Call's HP. They could already tell they were up against an expert. They were not Gufei, and none of them had that inhuman reaction of his. By the time they saw or heard the sound of the arrow flying and reacted accordingly, the projectile would have already dug deep into them in the time they could register it to be an attack. How would any of them have the time to react? Thus, when normal players were facing ranged attacks, all they could do was keep moving to avoid giving the assailant the chance to accurately target them. With Royal God Call's fast movement speed, Everyone could see just how erratically he had been moving. For the enemy to have been able to accurately target him under such circumstances, it was clear that the man's marksmanship well surpassed the average player's capabilities. The heart of someone like War without wounds with his baby legs was beating all the more furiously when he witnessed this. If this enemy was able to target someone like Royal Godcall with his movement speed, why would his own serpentine maneuver even matter?